Nice shot.
Global Series. It's week 2 of Split 1 here for the Americas, and we prepare to see another group of our teams step up to the plate for the first time in this new season. My name is Glitter Explosion, and I will be your host for today. And we had an awesome show earlier in EMEA, and now it's time to dive into everything we have in store for the Americas. So let's bring our lovely casters back to kick things off. Spider, Tiff, and Jamerson, we are back. New region. Tiff, are you ready for the Americas action?
Look, I am. Let me just tell you, I am refreshed based off what we saw in week number 1 for Americas, how the legend band system has been playing out, and who is going to be able to rise to the occasion. Obviously, in EMEA, we had someone move from 4th to 1st place in such a dominant fashion week after week. Will we see maybe a potential repeat winner for HUSS? I don't know what to expect, you know?
You know, and that kind of really is the question, right, Jamerson? Are we going to start seeing the consistency in the Americas that we got out of EMEA? Will somebody rise to the top?
Yeah, I mean, so far for EMEA, we've had 2 standout performances, right, by 2 separate teams in pretty clear fashion, while last week for the Americas region, it was an extremely tight race up until the finish. And so we'll see if that kind of parity is going to be matched here once again for week number 2 of Americas, or if we're going to see someone finally break ahead of the rest of the curve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was definitely a close week last time around for Americas. But let's see what our groups have to bring to the table here today, because like we said earlier, it's only the 2nd week of the split, which means we still haven't even gotten to see Group C here yet. So it'll be Groups A and C today. And of course, exciting to talk about all of these new squads. Group C, Tiff, the one that we finally get to see our 2 South American squads coming out of.
Yeah, we definitely get to witness what they bring to the table here today. But I was talking to the homie Wyatt from the Apex pod, and I was like, yo, what are your takes for today? What are the teams you want to see? And 2 of them actually hailed from Group C as well. I'm looking at Complexity and Virtus.pro. Both teams that are phenomenal in their own right, but based after this past week, it's like, what will the week's endeavors bring to the table here for match day? And I'm looking at Complexity and some interesting situations there, but I think they're going to come out swinging. Virtus.pro, sometimes those Mazer moments can be so good and other times not so much. So I'm curious which side of the stick we're going to get today.
Yeah, this is going to be the Mazer moments or the Mazen moments. So it is always, of course, a coin flip there in Group A. We got to see the return of HUSS, and it felt so good being able to see them perform the way that they did. It almost felt like for Duplex and for Skittle Cakes, they really did not skip a beat whatsoever. It's like they never left whatsoever. But again, we still have so many other teams that we have to highlight. Liquid Alienware doing what they always do as well. They perform extremely well, but they're just kind of not outclassed, but outshone by other performances. But they are amazingly consistent. And so throughout the splits, throughout whatever season happens, Team Liquid Alienware are always there putting on a good performance.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a really good group matchup, as we do have quite a few teams to talk about. And I know we mentioned a couple of them when we were looking at the participants, but Jamerson, give me some of the squads you want to keep your eyes on here.
Yeah, again, Group C, this is the first time we're going to be seeing them play this split, and we cannot not to mention, of course, Virtus.pro, Zach Mazer, Lou, and Slayer. They had a shaky start when we saw them as champs, right? It wasn't until that final game where it was up to them to try and put a stop to go next, but they still secured 2nd place in that final game and an overall 5th. And again, revamped Lou with Slayer, with Zach Mazer. They feel like a complete unit, but it's just about waiting for them to finally have that performance that everyone knows that they're capable of. So hopefully they can get out the gate swinging this time around. Hopefully, you know, all the chaos of the new legend band system, of the new map coming in, will work out in their favor. Now, Complexity is another team that performed extremely well. They were a team that started off hot and then slowed down when we were at champs at match point finals. They were so close to hitting match point. I think they were around 40 points after 3 maps, and then from there things just did not go their way. But if you were were to characterize their performance at champs, especially on match point finals, it seemed like they were reviving. This was a team that was getting more and more comfortable with each other. Now there was a little inkling online of some chaos, some strife within the team. Hopefully they work that out for today's play, because we want them to really show up here for Group C. Now, of course, we also have the roster swaps, the team swaps. We had that happen in EMEA. We also have that happen here in the Americas region. Cloud9, their entire roster getting picked up by LG. Now, they weren't able to make it to match point finals during champs. There were glimmers of hope, though, and we'll see possibly again if the shakeup in how the match in the legend ban system works out for them, if E District might be something that they can really leverage a little bit more for success. Hopefully that comes to fruition. Unfortunately for them today, we're starting off, of course, on Broken Moon and going over to Stormpoint, but Stormpoint should be something that they're able to flex off of extremely well. And of course, our final team that we do want to talk about here in the Americas region, because it is the Americas region, because it is the combination of now North America and South America, we do have to highlight Leave No Witness, our Argentinian squad coming out from the Americas. They had, of course, a presence at champs as well. 28th place overall for Azazel and Panic on Dragons. And I think this is a huge opportunity for them to be able to play here in the Americas region, playing against teams like LG, Complexity, and Virtus.pro. This is a huge opportunity for South America now to really make their names known instead of it just only happening at LAN. So this is going to be a great growth opportunity for them, and I hope that they can use this to really further the fan base that is already amazing in South America.
Oh, I love that. I love that we got to highlight Leave No Witness as well, because that leaves room for me to talk about HUSS, right? After that week 1 performance, the scoreline was incredibly close, but you know it wasn't? That right there, the collab from Skittle Cakes, massively brilliant because everyone was just kind of piled on top of each other. But this Gent Duplex Skittle Cakes roster is phenomenal, and something about anytime you see this trio kind of coming together, you just want to scream dupe a little bit. But we're getting the POV from Skittle Cakes, who had a massive day, and after taking a year off ALGS comp, kind of comes back to a match day win. You saw the interview with Dupe last week. It was brilliant, but this is kind of their match day 1. They've got 2 top 3s, or I'm sorry, 3, and then a 5th place finish with 1 kill as well. So albeit very close on the top line of the day, but you know what wasn't close? Skittle Cakes' stats. Let's go ahead and pull those up, because pretty impressive here. First place in Americas with 11 kills. Even competitive Apex over on Reddit was just like, dude, player of the week, 100%. And you can see why. Just watching this get brought to the table. Now, mind you, look at the legends played. Ashe, Wraith, Alter, Valk. We are flexing within this legend ban system, which is crazy to think of, because he used to be known for someone that locked in Caustic and played that during the meta back in the day. And if I'm not mistaken, had one of the sickest clips in an endgame situation to hit a double armor swap to go on to win. So very happy to see him back here in the Americas.
Great job, guys. Those were some really stellar storylines. Love the fact that we're talking about those South America teams coming in, Corinthians as well being one of those squads. But HUSS's performance arguably incredibly impressive when you consider just how stacked groups A and B were going up against each other. They finished above the likes of 100 Thieves, Team Falcons, Liquid, Envy. I mean, it was a big lobby. So to put on a show like that in the first week is definitely setting the tone for them. We'll have to see what HUSS can do throughout the rest of the split. But you guys mentioned it while you were talking about some of your squads. We do have a new map in the mix. So let's start talking about it, because today we get to see what Broken Moon can bring to the competition, and it was really interesting what happened in EMEA. Now it's time to see what the Americas can do. So we're going to start talking about these POIs, and the first one is going to be Quarantine Zone. This is Stallions' first overall pick, and this is going to be a pretty solid pick for them. It's centrally located. They can have a beacon and a console, really high concentration of good loot, but they will be surrounded by Thuggets at Terraformer, Nice Guys at Cultivation, VDR at Dry Gulch. So this is similar to what we saw in EMEA, where there are lots of teams surrounding that spot. Something to pay attention to, because then on the flip side of that, we have a location like the Foundry, second overall pick by VP, and this is the same situation with great quality loot, still tons of information at your disposal, access to really good zip rails, but significantly less squads that they have to worry about sitting around them. They will have complexity at experimental and 9 lives at solar pods, but generally a little bit more open space for them to try and rotate and move through the map when the time comes.
And we did see some zones actually favor that, but we also saw map 1 of the day over in EMEA pull straight over towards Bionomics, and look who grabs that. It's going to be Leave No Witness, which is an interesting POI. There's plenty of places to loot. You've got the zip rails for the easy movement, similar to what you were saying, Glitter, but if we're going to see a true southern zone come through on Broken Moon, the team that landed here in EMEA was able to convert this for a really solid game. So I'd be really curious to see what Leave No Witness does for Bionomics, but those northern zones are definitely going to hurt. Jamerson, what you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, we did see a few northern zones, I believe, going over to Alpha and map number 2, I want to say, of EMEA, but we've got, of course, Underpass here, and this is for LG, was kind of just, we'll take whatever is left on Broken Moon. It's kind of interesting to see how we've had different drafts for EMEA and for the Americas region here, because we had a heavy focus on Storm Point, and LG was one of the teams here for Americas that decided, yeah, we're gonna go for Storm Point first, and we'll take whatever's left. Underpass is definitely one of those, but at least it's very centralized here, and so we'll give them access to more of those northern or western zones.
Yeah, I think that Broken Moon was really interesting for what we saw in EMEA as far as kind of leveling the playing field, seeing which teams could really take advantage of learning a new map early on in comparison to then moving on to Storm Point and going back into that comfort zone. So I'm interested to see what the Americas will do, since they were clearly much more aggressive, like you were just saying, Jamerson, with their picks in the POI draft, splitting this almost evenly across Broken Moon and Storm Point as far as prio goes. So some of these teams might have a little bit more comfort, a little more things figured out here on Broken Moon. But that's just the tip of the iceberg for things that we have coming down the pipeline that we have to talk about here, chat, because I know it's only the second week, but we've already had a lot that has happened since last time around. So for those of you who weren't here for it, let's check in with what you might have missed. And this has got to be one of the biggest ones, because we literally had a live patch between week 1 and week 2. So that's something our teams are going to have to be contending with. We had a little bit of a nerf here for Ashe, obviously a pick that's been very popular when it comes to the Legends, one that's been getting banned pretty frequently. And then on the flip side, a little bit of a buff going the way of Mirage, Conduit, and Seer. Still saw Ashe being picked at the tippy top of the legend selections though in EMEA, so we probably will expect that in Americas as well. But there were also some weapons changes, notably decrease on the P2020 damage down from 25 to 24, so not a big nerf. We were wondering, will that play into it? Will that make a difference? We still saw so much P2020 tip. It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Definitely not. Still led the lobby. I think in EMEA yesterday, or week 1, it was like 130 kills almost, and lo and behold, it was the most used weapon, of course. I mean, you've got the accelerators. It's just one little tick of damage nerf, so it's not anything bad. I like the changes that we got to witness, especially with the increase on the SMG headshot damage by 1. We're just kind of evening things up across the board.
Absolutely. Now, Jamerson, obviously a lot goes into prepping for these weeks, so talk to me a little bit about what went down over scrims.
Yeah, I mean, importantly is that half of the teams in this lobby had the opportunity after week number 1 of being able to work on whatever issues that they may have needed to in the next week accordingly. And hopefully here we do see some improvements overall. Falcons walking away first place in that one scrim block for themselves, 78 points overall, even though they finished 13th on the day when it came to our matches last week. Same thing with Stallions, who are just right behind them at 14th place. On that day, while other teams I think right now are really still feeling out what the competitive aspect of Apex Legends is going to be like. So now not only are Falcons going to have the opportunity to first, of course, already get the first game day gone, but also work out what's not working for them. For Group C, this is going to be much more difficult, right? But we also have a team like HUSS who were able to win on the day, not performing as well. But again, this is all just scrim bucks. We don't know. Of course, teams play drastically different when it comes to actual game day, and I think that's kind of what we're going to see today. hopefully. I'm expecting another HUSS great performance. They're at the very least going to be, you know, solid. They're going to be able to put on 5 to 6 points per map. That's what I'm expecting, and that's kind of what they showed also in scrims.
Oh, give us more. I love when you say good things about HUSS, let me just tell you. But you know what I'm going to talk about? The return of Noct. Now, that man owes me a second interview, and I'm still waiting for it. Let's go ahead and cue up the tweet. Looking for team after this upcoming LAN. We know that he did step away from ALGS comp and immediately timed with some other interesting tweets did not go ahead and tweet this out. So let's go ahead and go, because VDR shock news, right? I'm gonna tie this all in together. Immediately after match day 1, you see Vaxlon tweet out, Deeds and I will be looking for one after the ALGS Open LAN. Reps has decided he doesn't want to compete as of now. Respectable. I mean, Reps has been around competitive Apex for such a long time, has been such a major part of teams like TSM, and maybe he just wants to take a little bit of a break. But then you have Noct who tweeted out at like dang near the exact same time that he's looking for a team after the ALGS Open. So will we see Noct, Deeds, Vaxlon kind of against the world in ALGS comp? That would be so interesting.
That's why there's so much for us to keep up with. And we want to do one final thing here. We need to touch on some of what we saw out of Blinkster from last week, because Oblivion, a team that finished in 6th last week with 1 win as well. A lot of that was attributed to the plays we saw out of this man, okay? And it was so good. It was so impressive that these plays elicited a response across social media from so many of our other players. We can see just how important the P2020s are in that situation. But we've got the reactions here. Yo, I'm in here like 4 times. Could have at least at me, bro. This is what's happening. Maybe I should bind some movement from Zach Mazer. I mean,
okay, do
right?
it.
This might be Mouse and Key final boss, because that's just how good Blinkster was. And please chill TF out, okay, Slayer? So good. No, people just couldn't stop talking about it. And that's what we're looking for out of our players. So to everyone at home, hopefully you are now fully caught up on what has happened from week 1 into week 2 as we prepare to get into our matches. And one of the most important things for our matches is, of course, the way that all of you at home enjoy your watching experience, okay? The best way to do that is going to be through Face It Watch. This way you can watch up to 4 POVs of your choice. Pick your favorite teams, favorite players, or watch the map feed, and that way you can experience ALGS your way. It's also available on mobile. You can watch it on the go, and that way you won't miss a single second of anything that we have happening here all weekend long. All you have to do is head on over to faceit.com/watch to get all of your information. Now, you can even clip your favorite moments from the broadcast, and you could be featured here on the broadcast. And one of the other ways you could be featured is, of course, our new segment, What Does Chat Think? Okay, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, talk to us on social media. Tweet us your thoughts, your questions. We're going to be having Rambo on later. Maybe you want to ask him something specific, and you have a chance to have it selected to be featured here on the broadcast. It is a really, really cool way to get involved with everything that we've got going on here today. And we had some really spicy takes during EMEA for what chat thought. So I'm excited to see what the Americas has to say. You know, the chat is, they never are quiet when they have strong opinions on these things. So make sure you let us know exactly what all of those thoughts are, ladies and gentlemen, because we are moments away from getting into our first match of the day. Hopefully all of you at home are prepared and ready to dive into all the action, because I know that Tiff and Jamerson are prepared and ready as well. So let's kick off match number 1.
Ooh, let's do it. I'm still kind of reeling from the fact that we're giving chat so much power. Sometimes you really never know what you're going to get. And we saw, like she said, some really hot takes, flips of the coins, but it just makes for some really fun discussions. And speaking of discussions, kind of bouncing off what we saw with the legend ban system after week 1, we had some vast differences with the inclusion of Broken Moon, Jamerson. We saw some legends get banned earlier than not. We had some legend ban ties, right? Ash and Newcastle after map number 1, the same amount of picks, and we had to break into tiebreakers for the EMEA region. What do you think we're gonna see something different for Americas today?
I mean, last week between Americas and EMEA, we basically had the exact same bans except just a different order. Ultimately here, I think it's going to be the same case. It'll be interesting to see if the Americas teams were watching what was going on in Broken Moon for EMEA and might want to try and draft something to possibly retain having a Catalyst or Newcastle going into Stormpoint. But we saw how drastically that changed so many teams' game plans and how they had to play out on Stormpoint, which is something that you're so used to playing, right? That's just the formula, a recipe that has been set in stone for so long now. And now you're adding in the legend ban, which just removes cornerstones of compositions that teams regularly fall upon. And so we're seeing now teams that aren't as used to it having to try and fall back on something like a Rampart, which, you know, they usually would not have been caught dead playing. But we saw a uptick of Rampart there on Stormpoint, even though that was a kind of a niche pick before our legend bans came in.
Yeah, let's go ahead and break it all down. There's the POI draft for Broken Moon. We're going to be playing matches 1 through 3 on this before moving back over to Stormpoint. And immediately, I'm jumping to HUSS. And the reason I'm doing that is because they're landing in Hazmat Tunnel, which I would have scoffed at, but it's so central. And this is actually where Na'Vi was landing in the EMEA region this morning for us. And how many times did they convert it? Well, they converted to a map 1 and map 3 victory. Now, you could argue a couple different things for it. The zones were all over the place in Broken Moon, but it just gives you some really nice options on wherever you'd like to traverse. For teams like the Falcons taking Spaceport, that's where Aurora was landing, and it kind of stifled a lot of those rotations, especially when we got that Bionomics endgame.
Yeah, this is still a really decent spot for them, especially if they want to move out quickly. And I think for the simple fact that we are starting off on Broken Moon with the complete pool open, right? Ash is going to be there. We're going to have access to, of course, our Catalyst and our Newcastles. And so playing centralized zone, try to go into middle zone early on is something that can work out for them. They'll have a lot of access to mobility to be able to make that happen. But we're going to be starting on board with VP. This was the team that could have squashed GoNext's chances at champs, but unfortunately, of course, GoNext were able to eke out that win and take the victory, become the world champions themselves. VP so close to giving us an extra map here. We'll see what they did on the offseason.
I love kicking things off with them. I'm kind of looking across the board to see the legend compositions that we've got. I mean, a ton of Newcastle, lots of Ash, and a lot of Catalyst. So whether or not we see one of those 3 get banned, it's very much what we kind of witnessed last week, except in Americas, I don't believe Newcastle actually got banned immediately. It was an Ash Catalyst Wraith. So looking at the center circle, I'm looking at Stallions over there in Quarantine Zone. You've got really nice prio to that rotation as we kick things off a little bit further south. Now, originally in EMEA, we saw a production yard ending. So Complexity over there has a really nice position to fend off and try to get some early KP on the teams rotating in.
Yeah, and that was kind of interesting because taking a look at VP's composition, they're foregoing the Ash, right? They're foregoing the Wraith. They are actually going straight for Altar. And we were talking about how some teams might want to just stick onto a composition or as near to it as possible. And so having that Altar in so early on might indicate, you know, they want to just try and play with this Altar until it gets banned out. We didn't see Altar get banned until after the 4th map last week. So this could be more of a comfort pick for them, or at least try to be as comfortable as possible over the next 4 maps. If that, you know, remains to be the case, but we're already seeing early on a lot more Altar usage here than we did last week for the Americas. We had it looked like, I think it was just mostly the cat and the Ash for Americas in game number 1.
Yeah, so during all of that, Virtus.pro here starts to leave the Foundry early on. However, only 1 member encroached on Complexity's territory. And what does Funk do? Immediately says, nah, we're going to deny any kind of rotation for this. So they have to link back up. But you've got 9 Lives Esports kind of coming in from that southern side that's going to essentially push VP further north, which is where they need to go. But if you haven't spent enough time kind of figuring out what you need, now granted, you've got the Hemlock. We saw that little buff to it in that mid-week patch, and the P20s, which have been so nice, especially with the accelerators. You're feeling pretty good, except only one of you is on blue. But that's chill. You got Cersei and McLovin just coming up from the south.
Yeah, despite the nerfs to the accelerators, the simple fact that the P2020 just, outclasses all the other accelerator weapons still makes it an extremely tool to have. With the changes now that we do have, a lot less teams are kind of hovering around, trying to go for Evo Cash, try to get themselves onto reds. With those armor changes, that's not as much of a priority, and so you are going to have to focus a little bit more on getting that damage to get the next upgrade to get yourself up to purples. So again, I don't see P2020s coming out of favor anytime soon. Hold on though, HUSS might get into an engagement.
Look, we knew they were going to get a quick rotation, especially having that ring console over in the hazmat tunnel, easily getting that access and just making sure, hey, we want to get a move on, get an early rotate on in. The issue is when you have all of these choke points in Broken Moon and everyone looking for a quick rotation, you can easily get caught out. So Nice Guy is here, Cody there with the Rampage all revved up and feeling pretty comfortable as they look to take down the majority of 9 lives. I believe one player was able to get on out, and we'll see if we decide to let them go away and look for a regain. I think RKN and co are just still very happy with that initial engagement.
Yeah, teams are getting caught out in a lot of these early rotations. We even saw this on EMEA. Teams running into each other so early on. There's 9 lives getting knocked out. Our first team knocked out here for the Americas region. So that's going to be a nice +3 for the Nice Guys. But yeah, these early engagements, teams now, not only are they adjusting to Broken Moon, to the Legend Band system, but also just all new rotation timings for every squad, and especially here on Broken Moon, where it's a lot less familiar for them.
Yeah, it's very familiar to what we witnessed in other regions. We do see another squad fall on out down to 18. It's these initial fights that you're just like, could we have seen Cersei kind of dive away and maybe look for a regain, or was he just not able to get out considering how many teams have moved on in? And as we stay here with HUSS that have 1 point on the board, they're relatively safe here in this vicinity. The issue is we might have to dive deeper towards underpass or to where we saw complexity early on, which is okay. We'll keep eyes on that. But for VDR, especially when we talked about them at the top of the show, Reps announcing, hey, I think after ALGS Open, I'm done, locking it in. We got Vaxlon down and out, Deed's about to get fooled, and now Reps is looking for a massive regain up here in the north by being chased still by Purple Slushee. And now you've got Flat in the distance. Oh my God, Reps. There's not much you can do there. Sorry about your luck there.
Really not much at all. Unfortunately, just running into too many teams, and VDR go down in 18th. And it's really unfortunate to see, Reps wanting to take a step back for a moment, but it's understandable. He's been doing this since 2019, and there are very few players who have been around that long. So he's earned the rest if he needs to take some time off from competitive. Right now, they'll leave no witnesses. They've already gotten a few KP under their name, but it looks like the Nice Guys have them in their sights. Already a knock onto Zazel as Cody takes that high ground.
I'm actually really happy to see Nice Guys back into it, right? Like RKN returning to ALGS comp, locking in the crypto, something that he's very knowledgeable with and is going to feel comfortable, especially when you're just excited about returning. If you've got 5 points on the board and you're kind of sectioning off that lower southern side, denying anyone from pushing on in, now you can focus on the rotate, but which is great as you move your way north. Check out Luminosity right there, Jamerson. Like, yes, they've got that south side of the next circle, but look how much space they took.
Yeah, they had priority over it, I believe, coming in from underpass, and so they decided early on to take this. It looks like a very solid read for them, as the next ring will be pulling down towards them. And I don't know how much of the metagame it was that they avoided that northern pileup for whatever reason. So many teams decided to rotate out of their way and kind of negative rotate up to that north side. And now we're seeing that pileup, Flat Earth coming in, Purple Slushee, Liquid Alienware also creep their way up that rail instead of running into that choke point where HUSS is currently playing in. So I don't know if this is just a natural read or if this is just how the map plays out, if people avoid that south side and go in from the north instead, but it's definitely working out for LG right now.
Oh, well, for Corinthians, after that balloon rotate, now they've got to do everything they can because Stallions is looking for an opening. They were trying to hit a reset, and I love the damage coming through from them, especially Alb on the Newcastle paired up alongside Enemy and Crook. Now, this is giving me major Atlanta Premier flashbacks to the day. Like, Crook used to anchor on Gibby, and now we see him locking in the Ash and getting to kind of flex alongside that. And we know how good Enemy can be. So to get there early on into Underpass and just look for all the teams that are trying to hit a rotate, especially out of the north, you kind of keep eyes on them. Leave no witness, though. They had to go all the way to Atmo to hit a reset.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. And so getting back their 2 players is gonna be massive for them. But unfortunately, they still have to rotate in pretty late into very entrenched positions for Nice Guys, for HUSS. And we've already seen, you know, they ran into that roadblock of Nice Guys on the south. We'll see if they have enough time to maybe try and avoid that one, but they are running out of it. For Corinthians, our other South American team here in the Americas region, they've got a lot to prove, and I want to see, because I'm not too familiar with this squad.
Big fan of Bin, but now we see Team Liquid Alienware looking for a play. You've already got that opening knock and full on to Nano, and Kiev takes the wall, then jumps on over the fence line, has the P20 twice in hand, but as you see that, Kiev, 1 HP, looking for a full. Can we get a shield swap? We do, but Niazul's down, and it's Jaguares and Kiev that have to close this one out. Trying to get close.
Yeah, with a goodbye parting present to finish off. Nizel is going to force now Team Liquid Alienware to slow down on their rotates overall. He might be able to get out of this one and possibly get his teammates back on in, and Team Liquid might have to give up the chase on this fight just to get their 3rd back into the game. They've got, looks like, 1 respawn beacon in zone that they can run towards. For the time being, though, leave no witnesses now. They ran into Nice Guys on their last rotate in. This time around, they might get sandwiched in between 2 teams here. We got HUSS along with Oblivion just around the corner.
Oh, look at this. Taking the respawn beacon, trying to get Neozul back in. So we are up to a full 3, and Flat is just running further away from them. Not sure if you'll be able to get out. You can invest all the piercing spikes you want to try and isolate, trap them into the building, and with the movement dashes coming through, makes them tough to hit, but just like that, Flat down and out in 17th place. This will delay a rotation coming in from Team Liquid Alienware, and it's already looking pretty dangerous inside that circle with HUSS here getting Skittlecakes back up with the crew. It looks like you were talking about that leave no witness, right? They ran into Nice Guys, and now they've rotated directly into HUSS.
Yeah, this is very difficult because we're seeing now Skittlecakes playing a lot more open, a lot more aggressive on these Assault Legends. You saw him very aggressively push on to leave no witness. He had the backup, the anchors of Dupe in the back line. They were able to finish off 2 of them, but unfortunately now that created an opening for Oblivion to creep their way forward. So while HUSS could have finished off leave no witnesses, they're not afforded that same opportunity. Never mind. They make the push. They finish off Reina Tricky and Azazel. We'll see if leave no witnesses can get the res one more time. Panic actually survives throughout all of this.
Did you see the timing on that medkit? It was down to the final tick, gets it off, and now HUSS focusing on their gameplay. Now, the tough part of all of this is you've really caught the attention of teams that were trying to ice out people on the southern side of things, but we also can turn back towards the north where we have a ton of teams. You can see the Falcons kind of bunkered down in there. Week 1, maybe not their best performance, so they're looking to kind of grow from that and bounce back. Board on the other side of things, just towards the west of Falcons, looking at purple Slushee. And we get a full reset from Leave No Witness again?
Oh boy.
Can't keep letting them get away with this, can they?
Well, they definitely are, but it's so many of their resources have already been dwindled down, right? Healing through the zone as well. So there's not going to be much left for them even when they respawn back on in. And it looks like Oblivion are ready to gobble up this KP. They just need to tag them as they walk on in, and that's going to be some free points. For Nice Guys, though, they're in a strong position here. They're trying to cut off HUSS on the rotate, but I feel like they might have moved a little bit late here, allowing Oblivion to cut off both teams on this rotate.
All right, we see Purple Slushee down at the hands of the Falcons. Leave no witness down and out, and Oblivion, who kind of moved in this choke point a bit faster than Nice Guys, are now going to be doing some gatekeeping from behind the new castle wall. We saw Blinks there at the top of the show, some solid performances and a slew of tweets from the community talking about just the craziness that we witnessed. And, I mean, you've got Jelly and Vun on your squad. This should be one of those rosters that once they get a lot of that chemistry down, can do some crazy things here. Honestly, if I'm Nice Guys, I'm chilling. I got about just over a minute before I have to commit to this. Is Oblivion really gonna wait me out and try to make a push onto this?
And take a look at the awareness that came out from the Nice Guys. Usually, you know, you'd see them kind of hugging the wall just ahead of them to their right, but instead they realized, hey, Blinkser, he's right here on the other side of it. We got to make sure we don't get abducted. We can't give them a free kill. And so they end up backing away. So great awareness from the Nice Guys. But again, what is their option? We've got the mobility. We've got the void passage for Blinkser to utilize to get them through the wall if that so happens. While they're this distracted, they're actually getting cut off. Stallions move through that choke point and get ahead of them.
I was like, don't worry, I'll wait. Yeah, Stallions kind of making a push for that building that LG's playing in the long game. And you see Ape Gang has already moved in there as well. So we'll tune in. Maybe we can third party that later, because at the end of the day, this is 3 potential KP that if they can just put a couple bullets into them and get those kills to go their way, it's worth it.
A lot of utility going down there just to keep them contained. Oblivion, though, I don't know how aware that they are that they've got more teams coming in from that north side. Speaking of northern teams, it's going to be Falcons now on top of Team Liquid Alienware. I think leaving them down just to a solo. And there it is, the push outs, but you can see how distracted they are. And allows ACPs to get some free shots off onto them. But Nice Guy swinging super far to that northern side. They'll get eliminated here. Now Oblivion opening things up. They will have to expend that catalyst wall to get forward, but it's not the greatest. There's so many angles for them to get peeked on. Blinkser's super low, but he survives and gets behind cover, but they end up losing out on fun on that rotation. ACP, Falcons all making their way in from the north hand side now. Falcons did a great job of clearing out this back, though, making sure that Team Liquid Alienware were not in their way, and they'll charge forward with that Ashport and set themselves up with this wall.
I mean, we just walked into such a great spot with the use of the wall. We get tethered there, but some interesting maneuvers here for the Falcons. They've been kind of just playing all these different legend compositions and kind of rotating them between the trio of who's locking things in. You can see Imperial Hal on the Catalyst, Waltzy locking in the Newcastle instead, but you've got these teams at your back and you need to withstand a lot of these nades. But I just saw Waltzy become a death box, which isn't really good. You get the resources, but if we just don't get anything going from this spot, sure, you've got a ton of kills from it. You got the Moby in the back pocket, but everyone's going to be staring at you wanting this res to not go off, but still 0 tries.
Yeah, and it looks like he will be able to get it. FS not able to capitalize on that. They just ended up expending a lot of their utility. It was about 6 or 7 nades that ended up going down on Falcons, and ultimately what did it net them? Well, it at least forces out the mobile respawn beacon, which is a little bit of coverage that they could have utilized later on, but ultimately just 1 KP for it when those nades could have been better served for them in the late game. We are almost there. We're at 9 squads now, 9 full squads. LG haven't had to move. Complexity are going to be forced to move here, and they've got Virtus.pro to their south to deal with.
That's true. As you look at the building where LG is currently at, you do have Newcastle and Catalyst that's going to allow you to try and anchor down on the inside. Looks like Stallions up above. Oblivion get the reset onto Fun and start taking down kind of the underneath of the stairway here. And with Falcons getting Waltzy back into the mix, Fusion's going to be their biggest path of contest here, right? Because Fusion's got to move on in. Who knows where Complexity is going to decide to throw themselves at the next circle. The Dark Veil rotate coming from behind, and it's Funk ripping Hal fell apart. Waltzy to follow, Zero likely to join them, and the Falcons cannot get in towards that next zone, but now Fusion, Complexity about to duke it on out as Funk hits the crazy flip there to steal their wall, steal the KP, and now they're sitting with some nice points moving towards endgame.
Yeah, Complexity given a lot of space there. Virtus.pro had to make a very similar movement throughout all of this, and it seemed like both teams had an agreement. We're not going to fight each other right now. It's a grief if either of us try to fight each other. There's free kill points ahead of us, and that's what they did. So Complexity now really the benefactors of that. I don't know how much they get in terms of utility off of that, right? Fusions had thrown so many nades at Falcons just to try and secure that spot. Complexity were able to basically clean up that fight for free. So we'll see if they get some extra utility to throw into this one, which they would love to have. Take a look at how many teams are stuck here on the southern side. Complexity with a few nades, with a few well-placed arch stars, can slow down those teams running into the center of the zone if they have them.
Oh, Virtus.pro right into the line of sight of Stallions here, playing from the underneath. Some good moves from them. Wow. And I was curious on Complexity's side of things, how they were going to hit or rotate out of this, but they just start piling on in, and Crook enemy looking for a reset onto Al, but you've got people just above you and not a lot of space to work with, even with the Ashe ult available to you. It's just only so much you can do, and you're just trying to avoid everyone.
And we got 3 teams basically stacked on top of each other right now on that southern side. Oblivion made their move out and were able to push up to the north, while Complexity made that aggressive move onto Virtus.pro. So now Complexity have to deal with this Kimchi lining up a wall. Now they want to try and take this fight as quickly as possible and then deal with that pile up on the south side, but you can see how they're getting slowed down. Kimchi taking a lot of damage as he throws down that veil. That's going to throw off their timing as Monsoon wants to charge forward. He does have the wall to get on top of him, and he's aiming for it.
This isolated fight's gonna happen, especially with Oblivion having that. The counter slam coming in from the Newcastle wall. They're making the play, but unfortunately, Monsoon, Kimchi both down. Can Funk throw down and recover? No, it looks like he's just gonna play for placement, try to get out of this with a nice dash, pop on into the supply bin. If they don't see you, it's not happening, but there comes the tether. Bursty and co from the roof with Ape Gang. They see the fence line, and they're full sending Oblivion.
The calls that these teams are making so quickly to take advantage of an open position now. Stallions spot that one out, but Oblivion are ready to try and deal with this one. Ape Game dropping down. Complexity still alive as a solo right now, but it's Oblivion that gets knocked out. Stallions are gone. Now we're down to our final 3v3.
Well, LG, patience is a virtue. It's paying off. I was worried about you spending so much time inside the building, but you finally leave and you look to clean this up through the dark veil, finding your slot on your last person, and getting into zone early pays off for you as you take match number 1.
It wasn't the highest frag kill for LG, but they did what they needed to do with priority. Coming from underpass, it was a very quick run for them to get down basically into center of zone. They held into that building extremely early on, played that position. It wasn't going to be, of course, an opportunistic spot for them. There just were not too many teams around them. They didn't have the long range weaponry to really try and steal away KP, but they were able to hold their spot, especially in a difficult lobby here, I would say, in terms of how many altars we have in play. So you never really know how altar changes the dynamics there, but they were able to navigate that extremely well. So now we do have an extremely tight groupie here amongst our top 5.
Yeah, like this is 100% close, not wrong at all, but 4 KP on the end of match number 1. Not bad, right? You said it, especially if you're spending a lot of time in the building. You had some 30-30s and you were kind of looking for some angles outside of the window, but no one's going to give that up for free. Ape Gang, who had moved in and played the roof for a good chunk of time, walks away with 4 KP, but it was Complexity and Stallions. Stallions impressively with 10 kills. Sure, you didn't get a heck of a lot of placement points, but still you're rivaling the team in first place because of those 10 kills, which is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I think this just displays the parity that we've been seeing across the Americas for a while now, as it's not just one super team anymore, right? At the beginning of last split, it was like, okay, yeah, we know who the clear favorite super team is. With so many rosters shuffling around, now it just feels like there are so many, and it's about who's going to be the next super team, and I think we are on the verge of having a few more added on.
I love that. I love every time I hear the word super team, right? But I mean, we're just getting started here in the Americas for week number 2. We're going to jump to a quick break, and then we're going to dive right into match number 2 on Broken Moon.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Apex Legends Global Series. Nice little quick short break for you so we can continue getting into all of our action here in the Americas. Match number 1 done and dusted. And honestly, that final circle, the fights that were happening there was so chaotic, but in a really good way. A lot of those teams had been there for a while, were holding that position. So we saw a slightly lower KP in that first match than maybe you would have expected out of some of our top squads. But Tip, I'm not gonna lie, when I was watching that, I have to say, I am so impressed with Funk, who was able to escape Complexity falling at the end and got them bare minimum 3 more points, I believe, in placement points when he was able to outlive Stallions and Oblivion.
I just love when you go back to look at the final circle, it populates to 10 teams left. And that just goes to show you how many people were like stuffed into such a small space here, starting with Complexity, who had kind of taken this ground from Falcons, from Fusion. And we knew it was going to be some sort of tough rotation for them, especially when you've got on the left Oblivion looking directly at you. You can kind of carve out a Dark Veil and try to take an isolated fight, but you had the people on the high ground of Underpass where Stallions are essentially nestled down below fighting for their life, which granted it paid off. 10 kills right here, but we see Dark Veils coming through and LG, the patience done. They knew what they needed to do to pop on out at the perfect time to clean things up.
Yeah, and you know, that was one of those areas where a lot of the teams that had prio spot based off of where they were dropping were able to move in so early to that final circle that it just ended up being a waiting game. And it was LG that played it perfectly at the end of it all. But now it's time for these teams to pick it up and continue with this snowball. I mean, a lot of the teams that we talked about at the top of the show, Tiff, found success in that first match. So maybe we're a little bit less cursed this time.
It's true. We were very cursed over in EMEA, but honestly, that is definitely a blessing because you think about Luminosity, right? Sure, they converted into a match 1 win. They got Underpass. It was 35th pick. They did not prioritize a Broken Moon POI. Instead, they went for getting something that they felt comfortable with on Storm Point. They locked in the mill at 4th pick. So it's kind of like they were like, what's left over for us? Where can we go on Broken Moon? And you get gifted a zone over towards that area. You're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome, Luminosity.
Literally. And then also, one thing that we haven't even touched on yet was how key we saw Catalyst's kit being in those final moments for a lot of the teams that had to either zone off pressure, which we saw Complexity having to do, trying to move around a lot of the walls that had already been thrown down. They were trying to counter with their Newcastle. Well, Catalyst is out of the conversation now. Banned. Done.
Bye.
Okay. So now no more spikes, no more walls for people to deal with here on Broken Moon. So that could be changing what we see in those final circle moments.
It really could. I mean, I'm looking over at EMEA from this morning. Catalyst was banned 3rd. So it took a minute for Catalyst to get out of here. And over in NA for week 1, she was banned 2nd. So for the people that locked in Ash, locked in Newcastle, and it was very vital to their rotations, well, good thing you get 1 more game with her. At least. I wouldn't be surprised if she goes out relatively soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always between Ash and Newcastle next, so you know, and we never know who's going to survive the longest here. So you guys can see that reflected with the Catalyst being great out there. She's no longer available for your controller legend, and we did see some really cool adaptations towards the end of the series in EMEA, seeing which teams preferred which legend. We saw a big combo of more Watsons, more Ramparts, lots of fuses coming in. We even saw some ballistic in EMEA, so it's always fun to pay attention to see what the regional differences are when it comes to those legend comps.
You're not wrong. I mean, especially with the Ringmaster perks, you love seeing that one kind of come through. We saw Rampart. I think it was Oblivion that was locking in Rampart, feeling pretty confident, especially on those replays at the top of show. I'm trying to like look over as you see that Challenger Circuit shout out right there beginning April 19th. You think you guys got what it takes? Go ahead. Drop into Challenger Circuit. Maybe I'll dive in there with you.
Do it. Tiff, do it. I want to watch you play in the Challenger Circuit.
I mean, yeah, me too. Me too. I can't wait. Maybe I'll go find a coach. Look, that's the real key to success here. I need a solid coach.
We'll get Graceful. It's fine. Okay. It's fine.
Everything's fine when Graceful's by your side. But enough about that, guys. We're going to be diving straight into match number 2. And we talked about it. Rampart might be one of the legends that comes on through. I see at least 7 Ramparts selected from our teams here in Americas as we get this brilliant flyby shot of LG, your match 1 winners over here at Underpass. Of course, you got a survey beacon, you got some supply bins, you got a ring console. Yay.
Listen, they're gonna make lemonade from lemons, okay? They did it the first time. They're gonna see if they can do it again. And I'm looking through what we've got right now for these legend picks, then it's potentially looking like Newcastle is the 2nd most popular. And I'm only bringing this up now, it's a little bit early, but looking towards Storm Point later on in the day, that means once again we will be without Catalyst, without Newcastle when we get to the second half of the day.
Well, let's see where we are going to be going. And
well,
well, we don't get to see the 4 corners of Broken Moon here today in Americas like we did on EMEA. We are just going to stick to potentially letting Luminosity have another go at this side of Broken Moon. For complexity, you love to see it as well.
I mean, run it back, right? You got to figure out, and look at, to be fair, look at the amount of information at both Complexity and LG's disposal there. So they can set themselves up pretty comfortably. We'll have to see if they decide to do exactly what they did last time, or if they want to make a couple tweaks. You can already see Complexity moving more towards production yard, where Board is, where LG has already left Underpass and is right on top of where Complexity would have been 12 seconds ago. So it's going to be interesting to see if they like the building they were holding, or if they're going to try and switch it up, because Complexity definitely didn't love having to play off of that former Falcon spot behind the truck.
Another thing with Complexity is they didn't lock in the ramp part, right? So even though they did have a ring console, it's not like they're getting granted immediate access until they can pop fuse onto blue, get those upper perks, and start kind of working through that. Whereas LG, they had the ability to go through with the RAM part to get the ring console scan and immediately set up over in experimental, where there's yet again another ring console. 9 Lives immediately diving straight towards where LG is going, and you have Stallions here from quarantine zone where they land, starting to kind of put feelers down, making their way more western side of things. And this is a good push for them, because all of the teams that are relatively central, where you have HUSS coming in from Hazmat, who knows where they're going to go in, because Stallions would assume, hey, we know there's a ton of teams right there, let's see if they make way over here.
Yeah, we've got so many clusters of our teams already, as people are trying to move quickly back towards where they just played after match number 1, and already there's a little bit of poke damage coming out onto some of these teams. We're getting to see what Stallions have as they are doing some damage here to HUSS, already down to 2. We're gonna see if Jen and Duke can try and save the situation, because this is less than ideal.
Definitely not ideal, and it's Gent last standing, and at least this zip right here is kind of covered before it pops back into the open. The best part is you start losing out, just get one of those zip lines, get out of dodge, look for those resets. We saw Leave No Witness get 2 full resets in match number 1. However, we did see Reps trying to make a reset for their team all the way up north of VDR, but couldn't get it. So all eyes are on Gent for that rotation. Elsewhere, Reps on your screen right there, Vaxlon and Deeds just over towards the left, as they've kind of stuffed themselves over towards Underpass.
They also are going to clear out the first squad, putting us down to 19 already. And this is what happens when there's just a zone that's got so many choke points available with these 3 players and a decent sight line. I mean, Deeds is putting in some work right now with this scout, trying to catch out whoever that is on a rotate. And you see that RKN is going down. It's nice, guys. And we saw them in that area before. Weren't sure if they stuck around to try and continue with this fight, but I think they're just in a bit of a tough spot.
Well, I think Fusion's trying to get a more quicker rotate onto this based on their performance from nap number 1, but we are not going to see Gent getting a reset here. Your week 1 match day winners down and out already in match day number 2 here for game 2. That's a tough start. But hey, to be fair, we can see some slow starts on Broken Moon. There's always room for a bounce back later, especially if the points aren't being massively sponged up at the top. It was already close from after game 1.
And honestly, we've been watching VDR this whole time too, and they are just set up comfortably here in Underpass, doing a lot of annoying damage. They have Board in the vicinity that they've kind of got in their sights right now, and they've definitely not made this comfortable or easy for Board to try and pass through and find some safe real estate. They've got a really decent spread and are not being nice about it. So we'll have to see what they're able to manage. They might be able to clear that entire POI out for a little bit of time. Meanwhile, we're checking in with Purple Slushee, who is very far east, and it looks like they've got Corinthians near them.
Definitely really far on the other side of where this zone is pulling to, and they made their way over to Terraform, where you see Flat kind of taking that Ashel, grabbing the high ground, and immediately putting their attention forward. Now, this is going to be a tough fight because you saw just how formidable Falcons were looking in the early game of match number 1, so it's going to be a heavy-hitting engagement up here, relatively isolated, still up to the stomping grounds near Spaceport. But it almost looks like Flat is laying in pursuit here, looking for Hal. If we can maybe pick off one member of the Falcons, clip some wings, whatever makes sense for them. But you never want to extend out too far, because next thing you know, you find yourself in the nest. But honestly, Falcons using the movements, doubling down, have gotten so far ahead of Flat. They should be safe on this rotation.
I do respect that Flat was trying to see what they could do there, see if they could maybe get an early game pick and really put Falcons onto the back foot. And they probably didn't 100% know for certain, but they were quite safe in that chase, as we can see on the map there now. They're one of the only squads on that northern side still looking the direction of Falcons. So we'll see what they decide long term, if they want to kind of continue going for that chase, or if now the Falcons have regrouped and reset, they're going to back off here for just a little bit. We also get to take a look at where everybody else's Complexity has continued moving far north, and now they're kind of gatekeeping Liquid Alienware right on that western edge. And this is literally straight back down in Experimental. I mean, look where some of these teams have clustered up. LG's looking cozy.
It's brilliant, right? LG starting at Underpass. They got the information early on. They put themselves into a solid position. Virtus.pro, they started in Foundry and then they just buckled down a bit north. They're kind of hovering over where that ring console is, probably denying access to anyone else. And you just kind of have to play it safe from that area. Flat will likely be able to get some of that information on their rotation down from Dry Gulch and put themselves in a solid position. But it's Falcons who are taking a different approach, right? They're actually going down to Quarantine Zone before setting their sights over to Experimental Labs. And Oblivion, top 5 on the day thus far, popped into the Ballistic ultimate and trying to make something of it.
Will we get more of those clips out of Blinkzer here today? Is he ready to put on another clinic?
Please. We're waiting. We're waiting. 100%. You can see that the other team is also waiting. It's nice, guys, and Purple Slushee going to be making their way in. So it's not just going to be one of those fights where you think you're alone and can hit a clean reset and then focus on forward. The moment you start seeing some other teams move in, you realize this is no longer a smart fight. Maybe we just focus on getting in towards that zone. But you've got 2 different choke points that are going to be the best course of action for yourself. And you're going to have to rely on what you have for cover and information to make that play, which is going to be tough because Stallions and Ape Gang are both looking for some easy pickups.
Absolutely. It's about trying to figure out when the right time to push these choke points is. Purple Slushee look like they've decided to back off. So let's jump in with their comps and see what the strategy is.
I'm going.
We don't have ballistic ult up, though.
I don't have fucking heals, bro.
I have 8 ranges. I have 10 ranges now.
Yeah, I'm walking it up now.
Okay. We're gonna have the team flying over us. Be ready.
Yep.
If they land on this compound, we have to fight them.
It looks like they're flying more left. Look into quarantine if you can. Yep. They're fighting behind.
Yep, fighting behind right here.
Set up real quick, Future. I'm looking at this.
Peeking this, peek this, by me. 1 HP on that Newcastle. He's gonna slam back.
Breaking this thing. He TP'd back.
Rampart up there.
Looking behind us.
Team wrapping us, this side.
I don't have LOS. Open this door. Put walls outside. Yep. Up here. Cracked.
30 flash.
85. We're getting shielded in our back. Be careful.
Yeah, we're fine.
One was right side. They're fighting in quarantine, maybe? He just walled back.
Ooh, the scout was putting in work for a moment for Purple Slushee there, Tiff. I mean, they found themselves in a little bit of a situation where they had teams on both sides. Played that really passively, but managed to get a lot of damage out as well.
It's respectable, right? You hear the calls coming from Onmu the moment they realize, hey, there's a potential for us getting wrapped here. Immediately start putting walls on the outside and keep attention and pressure onto them to make sure, hey, don't come down this way. You want teams like Leave No Witness to push forward north and look for that northern wrap so you can just focus on getting to the west. For teams like Nice Guys, right, on your screen, you gotta do what you gotta do. And if pulling a play like that onto Zach Mazer is what it takes, respectable.
Ow.
Respectable. You gotta do what you gotta do. Look,
lying in wait, okay? Just the ultimate trap here. Not so nice, guys. Managed to clear out a little bit of space, as you can see them there on the map. They now have that corner that they can play with for just a little bit longer here. They will have to scooch in a tad. VP there, 9 Lives there, LG there. Everyone's still holding on to Experimental. And you could see just how many squads are going to need to start making that push in. And everyone is trying to avoid those chokes. Purple Slushee kind of starting to peek around. Leave No Witness having to make a push through, potentially right into Falcons' nest. So, I mean, this is about to be when everything kicks off.
Yeah, but it's exactly what you want if you're Purple Slushee, right? You got Leave No Witness to go through Northern, but what you have to realize is Oblivion just got their third back on in, and one of them decided to make a push, and Purple Slushee just apes straight onto it, bringing them down to a duo. And you know they're going to be rotating on in, so they get to wait that out and look for an additional 2 KP because time is of the essence, and in about 30 seconds, there's a good chance they're going to be walking away with more.
That's so sad. I mean, they went to all the work of going to get the res only to drop straight into the waiting arms of Purple Slushee, and that was very unfortunate for Oblivion. They're still alive. Meanwhile, Leave No Witness is going out, but Purple Slushee now have a decent spot to try and pick off those remaining 2 members of Oblivion, as well as some decent sightlines on where a bunch of these teams are now converging. You've got VDR, Board, Falcons, Oblivion's now running into them, and Purple Slushee's just waiting in the wings.
The fact that Hal doesn't go down there is actually critical, and then he can reunite up, right? The last time we saw him, it was just 1 HP, gets some shields, and then immediately focuses on getting the med kit. But at least Zero was able to find that red helmet to get him up to look like that full, I'm gonna call them mid-game boss battles, because that's what they are. They're so good in the mid-game. If we can convert to a late game and get those placement points to go alongside it, it's going to do wonders for them on that leaderboard, considering how close everything is. But the bow check in hand, you know, Walty just wants to find an angle, right? We're still trying to fight our way over towards Experimental, and we are the complete opposite side of the map with like 10 teams surrounding us on our way.
This is going to be tough. You can see that Falcons are looking for an opening here, hoping that maybe it can be because of the bow check. Unable to find it thus far. Meanwhile, Purple Slushee have moved up, and they have a free pass through this choke right now. If they're not going to focus on any of those teams on the northern side, that might be the play for them to safely rotate through and really start focusing on where they're going to go the next time the ring collapses, because there still are a few teams they'll have to fight through to do that.
I hear a reset coming on in.
Ooh.
I'm looking for the cue. It's Blinkser. Hello, welcome on back for Oblivion. Falcons here on the opposing side. Like I said, you got ACP around you, Board, Flat, Complexity, VDR, and even then, the final moment to get into that circle is going to be Corinthians. So you look at your terms of movement. What do you have? You have Asholtz. Do we have the Newcastle wall? What does that look like? You've got at least 2 KP for them. No Void Nexus available, but we're looking for a cheeky play here, thanks to the altar to allow them to pop into high ground. The scan comes through, and Serial Cat goes on down. We trade 0 1 for 1, and now it's Walty last alive, but you've got the ring at your back, and time is of the essence. Maybe you just focus on picking up some kills, or maybe you head back to the lobby, and Iwan's does see that movement coming through thanks to the Ashol.
I was worried about them being on that low ground, and it just did not work out for them in the long run. But they weren't the only one. Board out, Ape Gang eliminated, ACP eliminated. We've got eyes on Corinthians right now, but they still have teams surrounding them they're currently trying to deal with. Oblivion finally out after multiple reses. Purple Slushee doesn't make it through the choke, and Reps is trying to escape. Doesn't work. VDR struggling. Flat eliminated. This is chaos.
Who's next? Who's next at this point? The fact that Corinthians get been back up on their feet, you can see that health starting to regen, but we're sitting here in the fire, in the flames, and although Reps and Deeds and Co did try to stay alive, 2 more teams fall to join them. This makes what happened at Mazer so chill because they're still in that next circle along with Nice Guys and 9 Lives.
That was insane. And now Complexity are looking at Corinthians trying to gatekeep them, but they did lose Mon. So now they're trying to see what they can do here with just Kimchi and Funk. We saw Funk make a nice play before, but Corinthians have some high ground, and Complexity are in a little bit of a pickle. Liquid Alienware are also across the way paying attention to this engagement, seeing if there's an opportunity to third, and Corinthians look healthy and are trying to chase this down.
You have a Rogue Lu in the back of Experimental with a charge rifle wreaking havoc on Complexity. So keep your eyes on them because they're going to be Corinthians' best friend. For Liquid Alienware, at least you have the opposing side. Niazel's already putting out feelers to start that rotation. But this is what happens when you don't focus on getting through some of these choke points in the early game. Look at Luminosity, right? They land underpass. They committed over towards Experimental early on, and they sent towards 9 Lives. And everything that they got from that was a brilliant setup. Fusion as well, they're just going to try to play the underside of things.
Meanwhile, Funk was found and does go down. Complexity now out as Fusion are trying to hold what little space they have, trying to pay attention to 9 Lives and LG in the vicinity. Nice Guys looking their way as well. So this is going to be a tough spot for them. They don't have a lot of cover to work with. You can see one more does get knocked. January escapes with just a little bit of health. Might be able to get a reset here, utilize that knockdown shield, but we'll have to try and fight Nice Guys as they push under.
Oh my god. Oh my god, the havoc, it's working. I don't know if we're going to be able to withstand all 3 of them, but valiant effort as you see Slayer with the finishing touches onto Trev stacks. Now, 9 Lives, LG, we knew this battle was going to be thrown down in the building. You see Cersei on 1 HP, looks to have gotten the best of LG in that moment to reclaim that entire space. Now, Nice Guys potentially looking for a third party, but Liquid Alienware, they ignored everything on the other side of the circle and just focused on getting those amped covers down, using the long-range weapons they have.
Liquid Alienware are going to be happy with their timing here on all these pushes. VP comfortable on high, and they've got some really good sight lines down on everybody else. A nice pyro spot to be able to watch everyone pushing in. As I say that Havoc just continues to put in work in the hands of Lou as they're able to do a good job keeping the rest of these squads far away from them, regardless of what is being thrown. And right now, VP have a really solid opportunity. That charge rifle could do some damage.
Are you telling me that Slayer and Lou both have charge rifles? The fact that we even have Zach Mazer that made a comeback, they got him back into the lobby maybe a few minutes ago and have just been able to hold down that building for a long time. Corinthians make an early rotate to get around 9 Guys, Nice Guys, and 9 Lives, and hey, it's paying off. The EMP coming on in. 9 Lives Esports dead at the hands of Nice Guys. Now you have to contend with Corinthians on the opposing side, and Arcane just jumps into the battle too soon for comfort. But we're just letting the Rampage, thanks to the ballistic ult, just try to clean them up, and they do it. Can we hit a reset before the end game? No, because Lou says, I've got a PK, and goodbye, Nice Guys.
Honestly, I don't hate that play on behalf of Nice Guys, though. They needed to clear some sort of space out. They get some KP for it. And if VP weren't looking their way, there was maybe a 10% chance they could have reset right under that wall. But VP's too aware of what they've got going on. And now it's all down to Liquid Alien, where the slam comes out. Lou's health is low, but it doesn't matter. Zach's on high, putting in work with the P20s. Slayer also low, but both of them still surviving. Zach finally drops down. Niazel is knocked. You just have to worry about Curve here behind this shield. It's just a little bit of hunting on behalf of Zach Mazer, and after a little bit of ring around the rosy, VP close out match 2.
You love to see that if you're a Mazer fan, Lou fan, Slayer fan, to come through swinging here in match number 2. Look, this is very indicative of what we saw Rory doing at the Masters today. Sure, you kicked off with a double bogey on hole 1. That was Mazer going down at the hands of the nice guys as soon as we saw him get surrounded in the building. But you know what they do? They bounce back. You throw down and you get to it. You get the win. And now I can't wait to see what the series results are going to look like after that.
It was worth the sacrifice, okay?
It was.
It was the distraction that was needed to make sure the rest of the team lived on. And like you said, they were able to get the reset, and it was very worth it in the end with a comfortable win going the way of VP. So we'll get to see how all of that looks with our match results here, which of the rest of the squads also had some decent KP. And I'm not surprised it's Nice Guys up there with 9 because they were pushing those fights.
They really were. Look, I mean, 16 points for them in 3rd place and a brilliant 8 KP for Virtus.pro for a 20-point victory. And you can also see up there on the top right-hand side of thing, no more Newcastle. It was inevitable. We saw it happening. So Catalyst and Newcastle are going to be done and out with only one more game on Broken Moon after this. Corinthians make it towards that end game, grab a nice 11 points. But we see Falcons. Yes, they can fight in that mid game, but it's really costing them having difficulty getting into those end games. And they're trying to use everything at their disposal, whether it was the altar queue to pop up to high ground, you get the scan information, it's just too little too late. Now, can they tweak things moving into the last 4 games of this series?
Take a look at some of these stats as well for our top 3 squads. I mean, almost practically 5K. I'm calling that 5K damage for VP, and everyone over 1,300 across the board. They just had such a good spot to do the poke damage with those charge rifles, the P20s from range, the Havoc. I mean, they were pretty stacked. But then you still get some really decent numbers out of Nice Guys and Liquid Alienware as well. I feel like people came to play today.
They really did. The fact that you just said P2020s from range is
literally
just it's insane. But we are seeing it come through. I think I saw a stat, and I was talking about this earlier, where like the longest kill that was done with a P2020 in week 1 was like 96 meters. And I'm just like, fair, as we see the series results here. Nice Guys. Sure, they didn't win match number 1. They didn't win match number 2. But Nice Guys aren't finishing last today, that's for sure.
It's the slaying, man. That's why I said I think it was a good play for them to try and go for that fight, regardless of the fact that they got killed after. Though KP right now is putting them in such a solid position, and the aggression seems to be working for them. We even saw them knocked a couple times, and they've been able to reset and continue pushing on. It's a really tight race at the top of that leaderboard right now, but we're only 2 matches in so far, so we still have so much more Apex Legends in store. But for now, it's time for a short break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I am the protector of the weak, defender of the just, and lifter of damn heavy swords. Whew. Just you and me now.
Oh!
Here I go. Yay, I am still alive. Go me.
I didn't get my sword from a stone, but I'm still worthy.
Taking damage.
I'm a hometown hero. I'm Newcastle.
Sony InZone, the official monitor of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Two matches down on Broken Moon, and we're just getting things heated up here for match day number 2 in Americas with A versus C groups. And welcome back, Jamerson. How you feeling after that one? I know you were looking at the end game, seeing Virtus.pro there 3 charge rifles deep.
That was a fun exchange, especially between VP and Nice Guys. I mean, we saw Nice Guys able to get that 1 kill, I believe, on to Zach. I can't quite remember, but VP were able to get the ultimate revenge in the end there. The cheeky little play with the altar as they're trying to go for the res, hitting them with the dark passage and just throwing them for an absolute loop. This is a thing that you have to consider now with altar being more prevalent and so early on here. Even though we've got the Ashes, even though we've got a lot of mobility and Wraith still in play, the early pickup of that altar really worked out for VP. They were able to eliminate that threat of Nice Guys, who were really heating up in that last match. And so that altar pick alone just saved them so much time, bought them plenty of space as well, and definitely playing off that priority that they had coming from Foundry, moving on up towards experimental worked out for them. We saw that, hey, this could have been another LG game, but instead it was going to be VP this time.
Definitely was. Let's go ahead and run that final circle back so we can get just another look at it. As we were seeing, we're going to kick things off with the Falcons trying to hit a rotation, going through the altar queue. They ran into such difficulty here. The crazy part about this is we're at 17 squads left jumping into this, right? And we immediately lose half of the lobby, Jamerson, and it didn't stop there.
Yeah, very few times do we actually get to see this in Apex Legends. There are very unique circumstances that have to happen where all of a sudden you go from 20 teams down to like 10 in the matter of one zone closing. That happened particularly on World's Edge when you looked at Overlook. There were times back in the day on Kings Canyon when you would have a lot of the sewer water dam. I forget exactly what drop it was. But yeah, there were very few circles that do that. But this is what it kind of reminded me of, having that very high cluster of teams on that northern side. And it's awkward because I feel like a lot of the teams could have actually avoided that. Team Falcons themselves kind of lazed about, and you saw them running around the center of the map for zone 3, zone 4, and they could have avoided a lot of that if they had just moved a little bit earlier. I think with the kind of priority that they had coming in from the northwest side of the map, that they could have actually avoided that, gone down into experimental, but instead they decided to play a little bit more edge.
Those are the things that I'm going to look for this week when I'm reviewing and VOD reviews. As you see the legend bans, we lost out on Catalyst, lost out on Newcastle. The question is, who is going to be next? And those are brilliant points because we know Falcons do start off at Spaceport. They had Flat kind of chasing them out of the northern quadrant of Broken Moon, but instead, you're right, they wrapped center, got caught back in the mix, and I'm like, stop doing that. Don't do that anymore. No, just get it out of the mid game. We know you're good at fighting. We know you've got skills. You're a super team. We get it. Let's see it. And hopefully we don't go back down towards the southwestern side of Broken Moon again. Hopefully we go somewhere new.
Yeah, this is going to be the final time that we see Broken Moon on the broadcast for today. We'll be swapping off onto Stormpoint. And again, I can't believe we're going to Stormpoint without a Catalyst, without a Newcastle. We'll see if Ash survives this one. But we saw a huge pickup of Alter when it came to game number 2. We'll see if more teams want to try and pick that one up. But it's going to be, hey, what do we do? Is it going to be more Ramparts in play now that the Newcastle is gone?
We saw a ton more Ramparts, even in match number 2. So I'm kind of looking through Legend Select. I see a lot of Fuse. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of action there, but we'll kick things off over at the Foundry with VP, your match 2 winners. Despite them not having the overall series lead, we're still comfortable, right? It's no one points gapping the lobby just yet. It's anyone's right for the taking. It's very indicative of what we saw in week number 1, right? But albeit it was HUSS that came out on top, but everyone was so close.
Yeah, I love seeing the breakdown of all the different compositions that we have so far. So many unique different compositions here. As you can see on this screen, if we looked at match 1 last week for Americas, it was Ash and Catalyst down the line, but now here we are 3 maps in, and it is such a drastic difference. But it does seem like, oh, we've got an early engage board versus LG.
There's a reason this is happening, right? Because LG wanted to hit the early rotation. They have ring console, survey beacon, they're at underpass, they see the circle, they're making a call that it's going over towards production yard. And so on that initial rotation, board's just gonna take advantage of it. If you can pick off one member of LG right off the rip, do it. That's gonna force LG trying to go ahead, recover banners or look for crafting and get back to a full stack of 3 as we get a look at where that circle is pulling towards. Now, I don't know if I'm being trolled, but maybe I am. Jamerson, I want to tell you something. Welcome back to the ALGS, my guy. My first 3 games that I ever cast with the ALGS years ago pulled like 3 climatizer zones on World's Edge back to back.
I was going to say, it's either going to be Climatizer or Skyhook. Which one was it? What era were we in?
That era. So if this is what it's going to be like for Americas in Split 1, welcome to Broken Moon. Welcome to this side.
Yeah, and we're seeing how many teams are now putting the emphasis on getting to center zone right now, but ACP is not one of them in a fight currently. As there they go. They're going to be able to finish off Onmu, but I think the rest of the team might have given them the slip. And we've seen how easily teams can reset. We saw a lot of resets in match number 2 and a lot of respawns here. ACP, though, getting tagged from behind, will be forced back, but for ACP, they are in pretty comfortable position right now, as really they're not under pressure. They can go ahead and just take that point and walk away. Oblivion, though, no strangers whatsoever to the early game fighting.
Definitely not. They've been finding some really good moments. However, this is fine, especially if you're going to start getting that southern rotation, very typical to what we witnessed in match number 1 and match number 2. And it's always kind of the teams like 9 Lives Esports, but this time Corinthians elsewhere. Sure, they made it to that end game in match number 2, but it's Bin and Kings versus the world. Wands has become a death box, and I don't know how we're thriving right now, because the fact that you have Arc Stars all around you and Kings is separated, already making their way out, they're probably going to have to look for a moment to craft and get that reset back on in. But what you do is you play distraction, right? If your Ashe or your Wraith Legend is trying to make the great escape, you give them every opportunity to do it.
Yeah, we had a huge pileup of teams here. Leave No Witness, Ape Gang, Flat, Purple, Slushee, all showing up. Ape Gang will be the first team eliminated here, as Team Liquid Alien, where we're able to secure Nazel's banner. We'll have that respawn beacon to utilize as well quickly, but they need to be fast. So many teams are ready to pounce on another respawn.
Okay, Kirev. Nazel coming back on in. Kind of trying to segment things out with the knuckle clusters and the nades being thrown across the way. This isn't a bad position to hit a regain. You got the space. I can see Onmu out to the left. You have Purple Slushee just across the way, especially putting down the amped covers. Charge rifles were such a nuisance in that late game in match number 2. And hey, I like what I'm seeing here from Onmu right now.
Yeah, you heard that first charge rifle shot. You know you need to get behind cover there. But Purple Slushee are still dealing with getting their teammates back on in and getting re-kitted here. So they're not going to be able to get as aggressive as they want to, but at least pick up a few off of Team Liquid Alien, where they're... And the hyper accelerated nature of our matches so far, it's incredible how many different fights we've had in the last 2 minutes already.
Yes, this is similar to what happened in EMEA throughout our Broken Moon, the 3 matches. They just kept getting quicker and quicker, and I thought match number 2 was insanely fast for the Americas. But as I look around, it's a lot of teams still looking for those regains that you were kind of setting into stone earlier on, like HUSS having to make a reset. I know Team Liquid Alienware was missing out on 1. I'm just kind of perusing, not sure if they were able to get back to a full 3 set. They're up in the north over by Core. Flat is still so far out that way. Luminosity, Shubi, Naughty on top of the roof. You've got Stallions just down below. So we're hedging our bets that it's going to end in this vicinity. We haven't been able to craft. So yes, you have the ability there. The question is, when you rotated earlier, did you already hit that replicator?
really unfortunate for them too, just because they're not really in a position to get out of here, right? We saw how quickly teams moved into center zone. You had Stallions, board, Complexity all moving in. The only team that really did slow things down a bit in terms of getting into the center of the zone was Virtus.pro, who I think, yeah, they're actually still on the south side of this ring right now. They're camping over both a survey beacon and a ring console. So they're just going to play their time, hoping possibly that there's a ring pull away from this point in the map. But no, teams were able to call it very early on. This is where the zone's going to end.
And this is where I start worrying about the Falcons. And the only reason I say this is because they've been getting stuck so very far on the outside from the north, and we know they can get into some early fights. They usually win that first initial battle going on, but you have Team Liquid Alienware that was looking for the full reset to get their numbers back to 3. I see 3, but Falcons are also going to get that information that maybe they were resetting in the north, and we're going to start putting out feelers to try and take that engagement, which I think is brilliant because no one else is around them. The only thing it's doing is delaying your rotation and leave no witness. Hey, sure, Flat trying to run, but Panic is actually going to push out of the circle to go for it.
Yeah, he's just keeping an eye on this guys for now, but there he goes. He spots out QZer. Go ahead and chase him down. Catches it mid. Bad actually gets it off, but it's not going to be enough. Panic with a quick trigger finger there will go ahead and finish him off. Leave no witness though. Need all the points that they can get. Currently sitting in 19th place right now. Still, we are in the first half of the day. They can rally back here, especially with a decent performance at least to not get goose egged off of Broken Moon and then start off on Storm Point on a better foot.
I'm gonna go ahead and give it to him though. Bionomics is great if you go anywhere else with end games on Broken Moon. They really haven't seen a good variety that would play well into their starting point because everyone has been rotating into that south side and just holding all the chokes. I think they got what, 2 different resets in match number 1, so they have just been on a roller coaster ride that they're just like, dude, just get me off of it, put me back onto Storm Point. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, the teams that they have to consistently run into on their rotates coming from Bionomics, trying to make it over to the west point of the map was almost an impossible task, really. It was just unfortunate circumstances for them. This is looking like it might be a little bit easier because of the space that they were afforded this time around on their rotates. There were so many individual fights that were taking place across the map that they had that space to work with. For Falcons, though, they are slowly getting boxed in, but you can see that they're able to back away for now, as I think a third team, possibly VDR, were eyeing this fight to see if they can come in for the third party. Ooh.
VDR safe inside that next zone, and Oblivion as well. This is completely different. We're going over towards the east on the outskirts of Quarantine Zone, and you've got ACP in the vicinity. We know that Oblivion's been kind of lurking around the mid-map throughout, just trying to isolate fights. And with what we saw from Blinkster in week 1, he's just ready to have that game-changing situation for them. Just has not come through.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before they're ready for the next fight. They did pop that Tempest, and it's about to run out now. So things should slow down for them. This will create an opportunity for either ACP to try and find a fight of their own, or keep an eye on their backs right now. Or hold up, Falcons up against Purple Slushee. They've already got 2 knocks, and that's Purple Slushee getting finished off by Team Falcons. This is the biggest opportunity now for Falcons to actually have a decent mid game.
See, I told you, we know they can fight. We know they can put points on the board, but it's just getting through when you've got like 9 teams surrounding you in a rotation from hell, basically. So just keep tabs on the Falcons. They're isolated up there towards Dry Gulch, and they've just got to go further south. For Team Liquid Alienware, this is a team that was further north than the Falcons and have decided, no, we're going to go a different way. I don't want to rotate into that. So chaining a couple of resources and abilities together and then throwing down the redeploy to really finish out this rotation. It's going to cost them though, because we already knew Leave No Witnesses and Corinthians are trying to have a fight here. Can Azazel get in?
Oh boy. Oh boy, there's still so many threats around them right now. For Leave No Witnesses though, eating up that bringing so many meds being utilized there for Falcons, already getting that first knock onto T-Law. So going for this mirror is working out for Falcons. They are clearing out this north side. Let's listen in with Falcons to hear how the game's going for them.
Wait, who's that? I got EMP from Choke. The Choke. Come build. Yeah, crypto on the left here. Join through wall. I'm fighting. I'm trying to come. Correct. The crypto died to a different team. Different team in the Choke. Different team in the Choke. Yeah, I'm holding. I'm getting drone. I'm getting shot in the back. Can we rotate? Can we rotate? Can we come to me? What, do you want me to you can come. I'm fine. I put a wall in front of you. Yeah, good put. Yeah, I'm good. I'm playing the open here. I have EMP. If I close building, I'm gonna put a TP just in zone. We might get mirrored. Make it into prod. I'm ranging. Yeah, care the mirror. Just care the mirror while I look forward. Can you drone, Multi? Oh fuck. Yeah. I'm just watching it for now. I'm getting my body forward and getting a drone. Rampart team in prod. I don't know if we can wrap. We're getting mirrored. Okay, I need to come back to you. I booked a drone right here. Yeah, they're on the corner. They might just go around. They TP. Here. They TP'd into zone here. Yeah, 3 men. They're going left. It's fine. Yeah, they're going far side, Reese. They're not coming outside. I have no TP. Okay. Building team is kind of fucking with us. I'm getting this gold bin here. They are definitely going far side. We can maybe get into prod. Or can we hold it straight on me? I think it's safe on me. It is. Yeah, you're right.
Flat, down and out, and 17th place, and some good comms coming in from the Falcons, showing that reserve and focusing on getting into that next circle, and they're doing a great job at clearing everyone out on the way. You saw them talking about getting mirrored, and even then with Corinthians trying to take that longer approach to avoid Falcons, they still managed to get another KP out of it.
This is the most control that they've had in the last 3 games here, but now things are starting to actually get out of the control. You can see that VDR board all posturing up to try and take advantage of Zero being super far up right now. He will have an opportunity, of course, to come back if they've set up. Yeah, they did. For that port, but VDR ends up getting knocked down here. They overextended for that one. Corinthians still somehow surviving throughout all of this. Falcons keeping an eye on them. But now, with how much time that Falcons have been putting onto Corinthians, they find themselves in that same situation that we saw in game number 2. There's a huge pile up here on the northern side. You got Board, you got 9 Lives, Oblivion, and LG all postured in position to slow them down. How do they navigate out of this position?
The best part about this is walking into the north side of production is so much easier than the majority of the rotations they've had in the first 2 games. And you can see that Board was so separated, right? They were playing with 2 a bit further into production yard and 1 further south. So they immediately pounce on the 1, forcing them to retreat and go back to their teammates, and Falcons find a position. Sure, it's not into that next zone just yet. We have to keep going more south, but you're already carving out more space than you've ever had. Now, granted, you said it, there's a ton of people in production yard, and we still have more teams joining us as Corinthians get a full reset.
There's an opportunity here for Falcons if they spot out that it's LG as a 2-man up top on that roof, and if they do spot that and try to make a push for it, they can have an extremely strong spot to be able to walk down into the next zone, which is pulling further south. Fusions though with a big fight as January ends up falling. Serial Cat is traded back though, and now Fusions will go ahead and turn around onto this, all up to Dan Matic in 1v2, but there's almost no HP here for that last ACP member. He's gonna take the time though just to heal up, not risk anything until he goes for the swing. ACP are eliminated along with HUSS and Oblivion. We are now down to 12 teams as the ring closes in.
My thing is, can Dan get his teammates back on up? Do we have smokes? Can we cover them? Do we get them both rezzed? For Falcons on the roof, you have the opening to really start putting points on the board. We talked about how close the series was just after 2 matches, and with our final match on Broken Moon, they've got north of 8 KP, high ground to go alongside it. LG falls, the duo is just going to remain just that, and I don't even know if they were able to grab that many placement points.
It was just really unfortunate that they ended up losing out LG, that is, on their crypto so early on. The EMP could have stopped a lot of these pushes coming in from the north side. They could have played so much bigger, but fortunately, They end up falling there. You can see now Falcons still battling for their lives here on the northern side, but the simple fact that LG basically kept the roof warm for them allows them now to have all this free space to play off of. You can see that they have complete sight all around them. BP on a fight on the low ground. Zero will go ahead and get aggressive as the EMP comes out.
Nice, guys, down and out in 9th place. That was your team that was in first. So this is brilliant. Zero can afford this, right? Especially with that alter Q. It gives them that momentum to move back on top. You can see, I don't think Hal made it up though. So we'll check back and see if he can make something happen with that for Virtus.pro on the other side, holding down as much space as they can in the next zone. They get to lie in wait, very similar to what we witnessed from that match 2 victory. However, we got G7 scouts. I'm not seeing a full team of 3 charge rifles in their hands.
Still, though, they were rewarded for their patience, rotating very slowly in from that southern side, while a lot more teams, of course, put that focus on getting up north extremely early on. Complexity was one of those squads coming out from experimental, and they get punished for it. Now VP, with all the space in the world to work with, we are now down to our final 4 squads. VP, Falcons up as a whole, along with 9 lies. It's leave no witness with a rat. We'll see if Falcons can spot that out, dropping down to the low ground.
No, the fact that Zero just gets a shield swap out of that is the only reason he's still alive. Incoming Arc Stars, and it's Lou. 1 Kraber, 1 chance, connects it. Goodbye, Zero, down and out. Not sure if you're going to be able to get picked back up on that one, but VP may be able to stifle the Falcons here as they're looking for a massive run in game number 3.
Yeah, they still have to worry about 9 lies on the other side of that gulch, and so we're not going to be able to chase after these knocks onto Team Falcons, but 9 lies does end up taking out that one solo. Hal inside the bins. We'll try and go for that res in just a moment after he eats a few knuckle clusters. The knockdown shield eating up a ton of that damage. But you can see now, just because of the presence of Falcons, that VP can't put as much focus there, but there it is. Falcons ultimately gets cleaned up, and now it's going to be Virtus.pro versus 9 Lies Esports. Can VP go back to back?
This is why I love Alter, right? When you have the perk changes come on through, you get all the benefits of the support legends, and you can just loot. As soon as he uses all the bullets left in that Kraber, immediately grabs another weapon. And for 9 lies looking down the barrels at VP, we're creating this ultimate standoff. So keep an eye on Lou, who does have the red helm, just trying to maybe put that pressure on if they're focusing Slayer and Zach Mazer, whereas 9 lies is kind of grouped up behind that fencing with some amped covers. But we're not paying any attention to Lou. He bides his time, connects for 104, doesn't get the knock, but I think it's enough of an opening for the rest of the team to full send.
Yeah, Zach Mazer's gonna go ahead and make it way on in. That's the first knock onto McLovin, but they need to chase for a little bit more. There's almost no HP here on Vayne. And that's gonna be it. Virtus.pro make it look easy. Back-to-back wins for VP will make them the clear leaders in the lobby.
I love everything that we witnessed there. Between Lou, 1 in the chamber, right? C0 bouncing around, gives him a dose of his own like Kraber medicine, and that was able to put the Falcons into just a really reactive defensive standpoint. So you really don't have to worry about them too much, and you can just focus on getting those nades over there. We saw the knuckle clusters kind of wreaking havoc on them. So it really allows you to focus on 9 lies on the opposing side. Let's go ahead and pull up those match results, Jamerson, because after back-to-back wins, man, we know the series result is changing, and Ash, our next legend banned.
Yeah, these are hefty wins for them, right? It's not the same as what LG were able to put up on game number 1, where they were playing a lot more conservative, where they didn't have to move out of their position because VP were able to come in a little bit later. They had a lot more opportunities to pick up the KP. So 22 points for them here in game number 3. But Falcons showing what happens when they are able to play with a lot more space, where they are able to control their rotations a lot more and affect the map around them. 17 kill points for them.
Yeah, it was disgusting. If they could have won that, they would have taken out a third of the lobby. Now we have the updated series results. Nice, guys. After match 2, we're in first. They've fallen to third, and it's VP after a 20-point win in match number 2, a 22-point win in match number 3. Now lead the way with 9-point differential over Falcons. Now, mind you, it's almost like Falcons only played 1 of the 3 games. So if we're going to take this ebb and flow, all they gotta do is bounce back and be consistent on Storm Point. Isn't that right, Glitter? That's what we expect for them. Yeah, I think so.
They were characterized as a slow starter at some points, right? During the last split, but I'm glad that we were able to get that listen in with them because it sounded a lot more cohesive than we are kind of used to, right? We're not hearing the shutdown comms. It's all three players really contributing. We're hearing the comms coming out from Hal, making sure that Zero knows, even though Zero's trying to play that very forward legend style, he has Hal in the back line as that anchor, calling out that when they're getting mirrored, they're able to respond to that. And they did. Corinthians was that big threat. They were able to deal with that. And if they hadn't, they wouldn't have had the same number of opportunities to pick up the kill points that they did right after that.
Yeah. I mean, especially when we saw them move into board, right? Corinthians was able to take that time and hit a full reset, Glitter, which honestly might have alluded to more kills at the hands of the Falcons later then.
I mean, when you show up as the Falcons and it's top 10 and you're already 14 kills in, if they didn't get unlucky essentially in that situation, they absolutely would have completely slayed out. And to be fair, like you mentioned, Tiff, it's like they only played one game and they're already all the way at the top of that leaderboard. But I gotta give some love to VP because every time we're watching them work together as a squad, these last two matches, they've just looked so solid, pushing fights that they know are going to work out for them. I mean, finding these openings to be able to capitalize on them, they've just looked really solid. And once again, on a map, like you guys were mentioning, that is not the comfort pick. Now we're moving into Storm Point. Teams like Falcons are definitely going to step it up, but will the snowball also really benefit the teams like VP? So many things for us to be talking about here as we go into the second set of our matches. But before we do that, it's time for a little bit of a halftime break. And I mentioned it at the top of show. We have to bring in a guest, of course, to come hang out with us. We have Rambo hanging out today. Dude, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing great. I'm living the dream. I got to, watch some Apex today, some golf today, bunch of good things. So, yeah, I can't complain. Can't complain.
Yeah, it's a good day for some competitive entertainment, to be sure. So before we dive into anything, first, I kind of want to get your reactions on what we've seen out of these first three matches and kind of what you think, Broken Moon has added into the mix.
Yeah, first off, I'd like to see a new zone on Broken Moon. It seems like all three of them were kind of in the same general vicinity, so maybe let's get a new zone. But yeah, it's been fun. I always said in year 5 it would have been nice to add a new map, so I'm glad that we did, and we're getting to play Broken Moon, something new for the spectator to watch. And yeah, as far as the first 3 games, VP looks really good, Falcons looks really good. They looked like raid bosses that last game, so excited to watch the last 3.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun way to close out the day, but I'm glad we have you here for this next segment because it's a new one that we've added in this year, and I think you're going to be a great personality for it. But I'm going to let you think about your topic, and I'm going to do mine first because it's time for our hot takes, okay? Now, here's my hot take, okay? Obviously, ALGS is filled with the best of the best players in the world, and we often talk about how important communication among those players is. I mean, there's an entire role dedicated to being the person that everybody has to listen to, but hear me out. Player comms, at the end of the day, aren't really about strategizing. I mean, come on, everyone knows that these players don't even want to fight until at least ring 3 if they have anything to say about it. And then when we finally do jump into listens, half the time it's just chaotic screaming the same thing 9 times over. He's one, go, 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 pushing. And the other half of the time, it's stuff that we know production wishes they could bleep. Comms are really just there for the content. I mean, how many times have we heard Monsoon telling Kimchi how sexy he is, or Nasky cracking jokes, or comparing the size of their guns? And then when a fight really occurs, sure, they're helpful, but at the end of the day, guys, it's about the content.
And apples and bananas.
Exactly, and apples and bananas. So, now that I've done mine, Rambo, I'm excited to hear from you. Give me what you got.
Yeah, so my hot take is that playing zone is actually harder than playing edge. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, what? But hear me out. So first off, you got to hope that you get a beacon, which is, it's 50-50, so it's not guaranteed. Then you got to leave right off the rip as soon as you see that zone. So most of the time, I played zone my whole career basically. So most of the time, I'm leaving with like a single Mozambique. I'm leaving with like a ranged weapon with no sight. So I'm leaving with, you know, sticks basically. And then once you see the zone, you gotta, you know, kind of predict of where it's gonna actually end up. So, you know, it doesn't pull away from you, and then you're fighting a team on edge with, you know, triple purple, double red, you know, fully decked out guns. That's just gonna destroy you, you know, in a team fight. So that's kind of my hot take. I know people are gonna be like, whoa, edge seems, you know, a lot harder, but that's kind of my hot take.
I love it. I love it. We get a little bit of two sides of the same coin, okay? We talked about the edge play in EMEA with HUSS, and now you're talking about the zone play here in the Americas. So I love your hot take, Rambo. Thank you very much for jumping on and talking with us about that hot take. But now, chat, we've got to see what you guys had to say. You've heard what we have to say as our hot takes are coming to a close. It's time to see what does chat think. We talked about this at the top of the show. We were waiting for you guys to send us in stuff on social, your thoughts, your questions, your ideas, your feelings about the ALGS here so far. And it's time for us to take a look at what you've given us to work with here today. What is on your mind for week 2 of the Americas? Because like we said before, we had some spicy things come in from chat in EMEA. So I'm excited to see what our viewers for the Americas have in store for us. So let's dive into it. Right off the bat, Falcons are shockingly high vibes. I don't know what type of talk they've had, but their whole means of communication is just better. Very fitting here for what we just did, Jameson.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it. I think this is Alternative Bad 6555's second showing here on our broadcast, and he is absolutely right. I'm so glad that we got that listen in because they did sound a lot more cohesive. It sounded like a lot of the drama that can arise between them was not there at all. They were just kind of vibing, right? They were definitely able to make moves without having to talk about it all. And at that point, it is shockingly different in how they perform, right? When you're not second guessing every last call, when you're just moving together as a unit, it saves you that extra half second, extra 2 seconds that does create a huge difference in how quickly these teams rotate.
Meanwhile, we've got another take here, taking out all the good teams of NA. Falcons might get top 5. So a little bit, you know, opposite side of the coin here, Tiff.
I mean, look, the guy's coming in with the name Soulless, so you've gotta just take that with a grain of salt. But I'm gonna kick this one over to Rambo. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I don't know about that. You know, I'm kind of you know, team NA, so I'm definitely a homer when it comes to NA. I definitely would have to disagree.
Hard disagree from him.
I mean, I think a lot of people are going to disagree with that one, but we're going to keep moving along here. And this is going to be a good one for you too, Rainbow. With the Legend bans well underway, what Legends have been a dark horse or rising star in your opinion? And do you think there'll be someone new in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I think it's been, we've seen a lot of Alter, which has been cool. We've seen a lot of new Legends being played. You know, Fuse has been in the mix a lot. Like I said, Alter. You know, a lot of new console Legends, you know, Caustic on like E-District and stuff. So that's been cool. And yeah, I think so. Once, you know, especially when you get towards like game 5 and 6, you know, you see some like Mirages and stuff. So it's been, it's added a new, you know, style to the game, which is pretty cool. Something new for the spectator.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but then playing into that, we've got Nerdy TTV saying, I'd say Newcastle's definitely the best comp for Broken Moon. Maybe swap Alter for Ashe, but I think we're starting to see even chat figuring out the meta here, Jamerson.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if it's just for Broken Moon, but we see it regardless of whether it's Broken Moon, Stormpoint, E-District. I think a lot of teams just put a lot of heavy emphasis on how strong that composition is, and it does have a little bit of everything. And so, yeah, I don't think it's just for Broken Moon. I think it's just across the board, which is why we're seeing how consistent these bans have basically become.
And then, of course, a little thought here on Stallions with 10 kills, good rotate, good comms, getting 4th. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, this continues. And that's probably the same vibe for all Stallions fans out there, Tiff. They've definitely looked pretty strong.
Yeah, and this was after match number 1, right? That 10 kills initially. They were just kind of hiding out and playing really well. But I mean, when you've got Alb, you've got Crook, you've got Enemy, you know that they're incredibly talented. To see them kind of finally excel, especially when I just think of Alb back in the day on the Pathfinder, completely destroying me in a ranked game. It hurt. I've held that inside my heart for a really long time, but I always wish them well, and it's good to see them having some solid moments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we've got here today on our halftime. So Rambo, thank you so much for jumping on and hanging out with us for a few minutes to give us your hot take. It's time for us to head into match 3. So we'll also be saying goodbye to Tiff as well. Thank you so much. Enjoy your break. Well, Jamerson and I prepare to get into match number 4. Map swap, Jamerson. Time to see what our teams have in store for Stormpoint.
Yeah, and again, we have to drive this point home, but no Newcastle and no Catalyst for Stormpoint. We are seeing a huge uptake this time around, though, on Rampart. Even in what it was match number 2 there for Americas, there was, I think, about 7 or 8 Ramparts. And so we are starting to see a kind of a divergence between EMEA and Americas in terms of what people really want to favor for their secondary controller when that happens. But having Catalyst out in round number 1 was a little bit surprising. Not too surprising, but still surprising that she was the first one out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to potentially change the play of what we now get in Stormpoint. We saw what EMEA did in order to compensate for the lack of those legends on a map like Stormpoint. We can look out and see if, like you're saying, if we're going to have something similar happen here across the regions, or if we continue to get a little bit of a difference across the board, keeping our eyes peeled, of course, for the likes of the Watsons, the Rampages, the Fuses. I mean, we even heard, you know, Rambo talking about it. We've heard chat talking about it. People are really starting to see just how diverse this meta is forcing everybody to be.
Yeah, I do also like how we have flexibility in some of our other legends that aren't controllers that can opt in for that, right? So if you don't really feel like playing the Rampart or the Watson or the Caustic, then, well, you still have options outside of them if you want access to that ring console. But sometimes teams might even forego having a ring console at all and play off of survey beacons and kind of use those as clues to really figure out, you know, who's got the actual goods, who's got the actual info, and who can we rely upon to be able to call these rings well. Right now, though, another divergence that we're seeing coming out between Americas and EMEA is the focus in terms of the map draft. While it was very heavily focused on the EMEA side for teams to basically pick Stormpoint in their first round of drafts, we had a much even split. I think it was 11-9, slightly eked out there for Stormpoint. I could be wrong.
No, I like that point, because that's something that we were really focusing on when it comes to EMEA, with just how heavy an importance they put on Stormpoint. And across the board for North America, it looks pretty 50-50 split as we get to take a look here at Falcons on their drop in. And honestly, like we were talking about before, they absolutely, Rambo said it, they turned to final boss in that last match. If they didn't get taken out, they would have had an insane KP.
Yeah, we saw how difficult a lot of the rotations were for them, just because of how slow they had to rotate, and I think other teams were just a little bit faster than them, and so that created a moment of pause for them. This time around, though, coming out from Cenote, they're going to have access to a Trident, and so they will have faster rotation options than they had when we were on a Broken Moon. I don't know if that's going to change anything, but we do need to take a look at, of course, our first ring, and it does seem like this one may be pulling on over towards the Devastated Coast side. VP, are there in position for it? VP have converted so well off of priority on those 3 pulls over on Broken Moon. Now they have an opportunity here on our first going on Stormpoint.
That's crazy. This is completely insane. They're going to be able to get themselves set up so well. I mean, and they don't really have to worry too much about what's going to be happening at their backs. I mean, HUSS is going to move in really fast, as will VDR, and start to claim some of that real estate. But the fact that after back-to-back wins on the brand new map in ALGS, VP then gets a priority zone as well on the first Stormpoint match is the most insane luck. They are having a day.
Yeah, look at how fast some of our teams are now moving, especially those very centralized teams. Leave no witness. They had 3 cross map rotates, and this is one of the best priorities that they've gotten. And look how quickly that they are getting into the center of the zone. They no longer want to take those fights outside on the edges. It was not working out for them, just for the simple fact that there were too many teams that they continually ran into. If it wasn't one team, if it wasn't HUSS, it was going to be Nice Guys. If it wasn't Nice Guys, it was someone else. And so this is the biggest opportunity now Leave No Witness have in putting more points on the board.
Yeah, I think this will be good for them. They use that redeploy as quickly as possible and beat the majority of the squads in to really get themselves set up and situated here. Rampart will be good at keeping people away from them. They've got the altar for mobility if they need it, as well as the wraith. So, I mean, they're going to be able to set themselves up comfortably here and at least start to watch the rest of these teams as they make their way in through that choke. You've got LG coming through, Ape Gang coming through, Purple Slushee coming through, and now we're getting a chance to see Liquid Alien, who is the polar opposite of that. They are all the way up at Lightning Rod right now, behind Complexity, taking their time on this rotate.
Yeah, this is part and parcel for how Liquid Alienware play out of Zoo Station, Lightning Rod, that northern side of the map here on Storm Point. They will take their time here and creep down further south and really utilize that zone 3 information to really figure out where this one's going. I mean, they succeed fairly well on Storm Point playing it out this way, especially when you get these southeast pulls. It's the cross map ones where we end up going down to like Cenote and Barometer, where it becomes a little bit less manageable for them, but I think they'll be fine in this spot.
LG making themselves comfortable on this low ground here. They've got the rampart ready for a little bit of defense, mobility at their disposal as well. And honestly, I didn't think that we were going to be getting fights this early, but that is very unfortunate for Leave No Witness. We were just talking about how they just wanted to get in safe early.
I think I'm the one that's actually carrying all the cursed energy here. You and Tiff seem to be fine, but it's me. I am the problem here. I'm so sorry.
I'll make sure I message them to let them know that was all you.
Yeah. I mean, Leave No Witnesses, though, you saw how hesitant they were to actually take that building.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I mean, with so many altars in play, with how teams are able to easily access the other side of that building, you can quickly get overwhelmed. And I think, you know, trying to play that building that early on was a bit of an issue here. We have now Stallions in a fight up against Oblivion. They've already lost out on enemy, and you can see Crook now making the retreat.
They definitely don't want to go down here. At least if they can get away with 2, they can try to stay alive and go get that res. But Oblivion are on the hunt. They're trying to chase them down, and they don't want to let these kills go. If they can stop it, they have an idea of where Stallions have decided to run away, but it's just a bit too far to continue on that chase, knowing they still have to make their way through Pylon in order to get to the next ring. And there's definitely going to be some squads along the way, but Oblivion look hungry.
You definitely don't want to overchase, though, and I think that's one aspect of everyone's game that we've been seeing improving. Oftentimes we would see teams way overextend to try and hunt down those kills, but now they're happy with the KP that they get, and they'll make sure that they maintain their position instead of going after that. For Complexity, we're now seeing the G7 scout out here for Funk. He's looking for an angle on one more. Has that team split up, though? They might look to get a little bit more aggressive here on it.
Could be a good opportunity for Complexity to get some points on the board without having to risk too much. You can see Funk moving up, seeing if he can get them into a good position. Just spot a player on the low ground, has to change course and try to find a room that's safe, is able to do it, but they need to really reassess if they want to make this push.
Wondering if that was Monsoon's EMP coming in. It's LG. Excuse me, it's Purple Slushee up top right now, keeping an eye on them. LG staying alive here on the low. Bax somehow surviving with no HP. On the edges, though, we're seeing a pretty big pileup right now as Corinthians are moving their way into Nice Guys, and we've seen Nice Guys set up traps before, but they have been spotted. There's the EMP. Kings has to instantly pop that Q.
Oh, this is going to be rough for Corinthians, because not only are they trying to fight Nice Guys, but Liquid Alien are in the wings looking for that third party. So Corinthians are going to see if maybe they can escape with a little bit of help, but RKN is not going to make that any easier on them than it needs to be. VDR, meanwhile, down in the chaos, is eliminated, but Nice Guys going to see if they can maybe clean this up fully.
Yeah, not really living up to their monikers.
No.
What is this? The third trap that we've seen across the 4 maps set up by Nice Guys? Just the lurk play consistently coming out from them. And they have been able to catch out a lot of these teams who, you know, aren't as used to having to rotate this early or having to deal with the new rotation timings from a lot of our squads. And Nice Guys, they've really been able to take advantage of that.
There are no squads near us.
Look, when Alienware had rotated over towards that direction when they heard those shots being fired to see if maybe there was an opportunity to pick something up, they don't get there in time and decide it's not worth continuing to push back towards Stormcatcher, as that lone rat for Corinthians will try to stay alive and see if they can maybe bring the squad back. Nice Guys have moved all the way through far south to get themselves safe into the next ring. And the chaos that took out VDR was all the way down there where we had looked at the complexity LG purple Slushee area. I think that's where a lot of things started to pop off.
Yeah, and take a look at the grouping of teams right now on that south side of Launchpad, because LG, Purple, Slushee all moved in so quickly, taking those power positions away. No one else was able to get further in, and they are all stuck on that low ground coming out from Devastated HQ and Echo HQ. I think this is an opportunity now for Falcons. If they hit that beacon, I think that's exactly what they're doing. Noticing that there's this huge pileup of teams here on the south side that they might have to take the time to go northern, but they still have a lot of teams in their way.
And I think they might be committing to move all the way through, as we see what Nine Lies has going on right now. They find themselves in a little bit of a back and forth to see if we can maybe get the shields off and keep themselves alive as they try to use their car here for a little bit of cover. They find themselves really, really lacking in some safe space, and similarly might have to back off and get a little bit of a reset so they can reassess just how many squads are in front of them.
Yeah, HUSS are looking for an angle here. Fortunately for Nine Lies, Falcons decided to make a push onto ACP. ACP were creeping up behind Nine Lies, but because that engagement takes place, that buys Nine Lies a lot of time to go for the full reset here. Falcons continuing that fight. It's going to be Watsy getting that first knock, and you can see now Nine Lies opting possibly to go for a third party as they make the retreat here, but they've been spotted.
I mean, this is definitely an option for them. It's going to be a little bit tough. They do get some nice shots down onto Dupe, decide to make the move in. ACP is eliminated by Falcons in the meantime, which really opens up the door here for Nine Lives, but they're also down to 2. Decide they have to take the fight. The P22 is putting in work, but Mid-11 is knocked as well.
Duplex that one 1v2, I believe here. Cersei, no HP, drops down. HUSS gets eliminated. Nine Lives Esports survives, but for how long? Falcons were just resetting off the fight beforehand, and they were laying in wait, but they were not able to get there just in time. And Falcons now clearing out a lot of this southern side. They have committed to it, but they are getting rewarded in KP.
Falcons wanted to clean that up if they could. They're going to get a little bit of loot. And honestly, Nine Lives is not that far away. So if Falcons continues pushing, they might be able to clean up a few more KP here. And after that strong match, you can tell that there is just no fear whatsoever. They're just going to try and steamroll through anybody that's in their way right now. And honestly, in doing so, they will have essentially cleared out the entire south end. Whoa.
There's still plenty of teams there, though, for Flat facing off against CIMJ. They've already lost out on one. Ghost pushing forward as Louis falls. It's a big team fight win for them, and they make it look easy so far without losing anyone. And so that's a quick reset. And they need the quick resets here because there are still teams coming in from that western edge, the third-party opportunities here as Oblivion do not get there in time to stop the retreat.
Oblivion trying to clear out those pieces of those enemy kits, getting rid of the EMP, getting their shields back up, preparing to go back in for this engagement here against Flat. Rampart giving them some extra defense here, and if this Sheila connects, Flat's in trouble.
Oh, Fun is ready to let this one rip. Spots one crossing, but does not do any damage. Needs to reconnect with his squad mate, and that's Jelly going down first. QZer takes out Blinkster, and Oblivion get wiped off this earth. Flat with a very decisive move there. Are able to isolate out this fight and even turn around for the third party. Flat swat them down, no problem.
Talk about turning the tables. I thought Flat was going to be in a rough spot, and in the end, They clear out the whole western side. That was incredibly strong on behalf of Flat. They now have a clear path moving through that choke to get into the next ring. That's going to be massive for them as we get to see what's going on here with Nice Guys down to just 2, trying to see if they can maybe get Sang back up here. Not going to be able to, but do know exactly where the squads around them are. It's Corinthians that they're currently facing off with, but Flat are going in for the third party.
Oh, nice shots out there from Cody, but unfortunately they are disconnected. Flat Earth are able to spot out RKN and take him out. It's all up to Cody here to try and survive. There are 14 squads remaining in the 1v1. It's not going to be enough. Nice Guys get eliminated here as Flat Earth are now moving on to their next fight. It's Corinthians ahead of them.
They've just decided that this is their moment. Corinthians eliminated. Flat has cleared out the west and that northern west side of the circle, just continuing to run through these squads, and they are already looking for their next victims.
We have a huge shift as well in the ring, pulling away from the major buildings over there at Launchpad, going over towards that South Fingy, but it's VP now in a fight up against Fusions, and these fights are so decisively won right now. Only Dan alive. Fusions get eliminated. Slayer will fall, but they'll be able to pick up that banner unless Falcons have something to say about it.
This is a scary southern side of the zone right now. VP versus Falcons. You have a wrap from 9 Lives lying in wait, but Falcons are trying to see if they can move in on VP after they heard all of that commotion going down. You can see Zach's health is low, even though his shields are up, and Falcons are going to see if they can do anything with it.
Yeah, Falcons, I think they're just happy that they got this south side basically cleared out for themselves. It's going to be a free walk down into the next zone. Their biggest threat is going to be Leave No Witness, who are playing on that western edge, but Flat might actually deal with that for them, creating an opening for Falcons. For Falcons, it might just be the opportunity to just get some free KP from a lot of those teams coming out from that northeast side. Purple Slushee, Board, LG, VP, Complexity, Liquid Alienware. That's going to be a mad scramble. And if Falcons have some well-placed grenades, that could be a lot of KP coming their way.
But look what Falcons inadvertently did to VP. He forced VP out of the spot that they were holding, and now VP is just down to 1. I believe Zach is the only one standing for VP after running into Ape Gang in that first building. And now Falcons are in a little bit of a situation themselves. We talked about how Leave No Witness could be the next team they were going to fight, and Hal does get knocked in the process, but they're going to get a little bit of a reset here. Zero down low, getting those heals off to try and re-engage.
Yeah, no, he's got that port for them to utilize to just get forward here. They don't have to make a risky cross whatsoever. Complexity, though, now in the mad scramble as Liquid Alienware drop on them. Kimchi with 2, and now he needs to find that last member of Team Liquid Alienware. No, he has a falling Funk into the void, but he go down to the ring? Complexity definitely do, and now it's all up to Flat here to clear out that western edge. Moving forward, Leave No Witnesses get taken out, but now it's Falcons down to 2.
There was no safe space for any of these squads. Zero, the only hopes that Falcons has, and they are dashed by Flat yet again, who has just taken this game into their hands and decided they don't want anyone standing in the way of victory. The only thing they have to worry about is that solo from 9 Lives still alive on the southern side. Meanwhile, it's very likely that the teams on this northern end are going to cannibalize each other.
Yeah, 9 Lives Esports, the next team to fall down. We're now down to 5 teams remaining. We got Board and Purple Slushee taking the next engagement. LG haven't moved out of this spot this entire time after they got in there early on. And Ape Gang, the team on the northern side, looking to just gatekeep these squads. If they don't keep an eye on their back, this is a free opening for Flat to get in and possibly take them out. Purple Slushee, though, still trying to deal with the teams ahead of them. Board keeping them at bay.
This is a tough spot for Purple Slushee. They're going to use the altar to try and reposition here. It does put them in the line of sights of a couple of these teams, somehow able to continue moving through and find another safe space to momentarily get those shields healed back up. But they are near Flat now, and they've been a scary team to be by.
Oh. What a nade out from Louis, right in the laps of Purple Slushee, but Bursty is going to slow them down just a bit. QZer doesn't care. He's going to charge forward. You can see how far back Louis is, and then is going to try and get back to him here. QZer hasn't fully committed. He can work his way on out. Flat getting really aggressive for these kills when they really could have gone and played for the positioning instead. That's going to allow Ape Game to actually take away that position that Flat were looking to play earlier on.
That bow check knock onto Flat completely changed the pacing of everything they were trying to do there. Ape Gang has moved out where Flat is and has them in their sights. They're trying to see if they can maybe push up on them and clear them out of the water here. As you can see, Flat trying to make a move in, but the bow check once again, Bursty clearing them out.
Ape Gang now in prime position to finish things off. We're down to our final 3 squads. Ape Gang, Flat caught in between them and LG. It's a 3v3v2 now for Ape Gang. This is a huge opportunity to catch up in the standings now. LG, though, with that initial win they had in map number 1, these could be crucial points for them to try and stay on top of the leaderboard.
This has been a very close series across the board, so any one of these squads having a strong match will keep them right at the top. LG and 4th right now as they're trying to make a move in and see if they can maybe take out one of these squads. Flat eliminated down to top 2. It's all down to Ape Gang and LG.
Ape Gang set up on the edge. You can see now a little bit of disconnect between LG, but as they set up that amp cover, trying to charge forward, it's amp covered versus amp covered, getting cleared out from either side. And so a lot of the utility is gone. Sheila is ready here for Wi-Fi though, and we'll see if he wants to pull that one out. He's got the G7 and the Volt, so Sheila might be the best option.
If they really wait this out long enough, Ape Gang is closer to the ring, but it might be the moment that LG decides to try and make a move up. Can they look for an off angle or get a little bit of a damage pick in some way? Wi-Fi trying to wrap, and that might be the opening.
Oh boy, he's almost cracked there, forced back, but LG aren't overextending for this one. You can see how patiently they're waiting this one out. We do have a few nades here for Kuzma. He can try and maybe find an opening with an air burst nade. It's a full 3-man push out from LG.
Ooh, the P2020 is putting in work as they make that final move onto Ape Gang. It comes down to the last moments, and LG close out map number 4. That was patient. Jamerson, they waited that for so long, just inching forward every few seconds. That was crazy.
Yeah, they ended up getting that near crack, right? They know how quickly to be able to do the math on the shields there. And as soon as they had that, they knew they had the tempo. They had the advantage in terms of that fight, moving out full 3-man swing, so they didn't risk anything at all whatsoever. And it was just a decisive win for them. Now for LG, again, this is another victory where it's not, you know, a 12 KP game, but it's one of those slowly but surely, we're going to go ahead and get those points on the board. Our wins aren't the flashiest, but they're wins at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's just showing a lot of maturity and restraint there, just going for what they know is working right now, because it's about keeping themselves at the top. We talked about how close the series currently is as we take a look at our match results and see what this means for LG. But they get a 20-point win, and they were in 4th, I believe, heading into this match. So that's going to be a really solid amount of points for them.
Yeah, and for teams like Ape Gang and Flat, I mean, it was great to see Flat, after taking some pretty bad fights, I would say, on Broken Moon, to be able to put on the performance that they did here. Again, they were in some very awkward positions where you saw the third parties coming in, but their wins were so decisive that the third party felt like it was on even footing whenever it came, and Flat did move extremely well. I would say the big mistake for Flat was, of course, moving out, allowing Ape Gang to take all that space in the center of the zone, because they got really greedy for those kills.
Yeah, honestly, that bow check was not Flat's friend. That did not go well. But as we get to take a look at some of our top performers here, Apex Predator, Nano on Flat, Guardian Angel, Qzier on Flat. I mean, they had a game right now.
Yeah, again, it was so impressive to see how quickly they were able to pivot from one fight and respond to the third parties. For LG, it's always about patience for them. Even if knocks happen, they will go ahead and slow down the game to their pace, to their liking, and they did extremely well in that regard. For Purple Slushee, you have to say, you know, this was a tough game for them at the very least, with how much action came their way on that northern side of the zone. But I think controlling from the top side of Launchpad definitely did help out for them. And now, after 4 games, take a look at the grouping. It's looking very similar to what we had last week here for Americas.
Yeah, and you can see just how comfortably. That keeps LG slotted in the top 4, only 4 points behind Falcons. And then it's just up to 51 from there for VP after they were getting those back-to-back wins. So this is still anybody's race right now. These points can be completely shifted around in one solid performance, which means our teams still have 2 more opportunities to do that and get themselves up to the top of the leaderboard. Before we get into our final 2 matches, though, it's time for a short break. And when we return, match number 5 coming at you.
Chant my name, I shall descend upon this world and bestow upon it my body. What offerings do you bring, thy beautiful vestige? I demand they be sharp and explosionized. You are making quite the scene. For me not to be in it. What the hell? This fighting pleases me. More! More! And now one last gift for my believers. The ultimate decoy. Cheeky.
All right, we're back with more America's action for match day number 2, groups A versus C. What's really cool about this, Jamerson, is that we've only had 2 different teams taking 2 wins here on the day. And with 2 more matches to go, will someone else rise to the challenge?
Yeah, I mean, flat, we're nearly there, but unfortunately, you know, just giving up position in chasing kills really ended up hurting them in the end. But I think sometimes, you know, you gotta understand that you have to slow things down. It's the late game, right? When it's the final 5 teams, you definitely need to slow things down and worry more about positioning than the kill points, because of course, every position that you outlast another team, that's going to be another 2, another 3 points. And so why risk it at that point? That was so close for Flat Earth to be able to have a monstrous game there. Imagine if they had put up the +12 instead. And so, yeah, it was extremely close.
It would have been wild. Let's go ahead and pull back that final circle. I know you were kind of already alluding to some things. Patience is virtue, but we'll go back. As we can see here, they started in 15th place. And there's 15 squads remaining. And this is a team that hails from the PSQs in America. So kind of getting on in there, trying to make some things happen, especially with Virtus.pro, fresh off a match 2, a match 3 win, feeling really confident. And then it's like one of those times where we just see half the lobby go down here, and Zero fighting for his life. If he doesn't have to reload the P2020s there, I think he actually clutches that.
Yeah, and speaking of guns that you don't have to reload though, and you don't have to have that worry, the bow check bow came in huge for Burst. He was able to find some really great kills, I think, throughout a lot of this. But Ape Gang, you know, they saw their opportunity. They were able to take that southern side of the zone, but LG with a huge cracker, well, a lot of damage across the board, were able to swing in like this, and you saw how much damage he did before he went down, taking out basically 2 on his own, and his team are able to just jump on top of the rest of them. So great look for LG. Again, a team that performs extremely well when they get the priority. We know that Saucer can get his team into the spots. It's about executing and converting on that early position.
Exactly, and with Crypto being the newest ban here, this didn't happen until the final match in week number 1. So it's showing up sooner rather than later here for week number 2. So I immediately drop down and I'm thinking of the nice guys. RKN, what are you going to play this time, right? You'd been locking in the crypto and now you're going to have to make a move to a different legend choice. Now we've seen a lot of really interesting legend comps, but the fact that we still haven't had Alter banned, we still don't see Wraith being banned here today in week number 2. So it allows for room to play, and coupling it with the Ballistic, which hasn't really been banned in EMEA or Americas just yet, that leaves room for some hyper aggressive pushes.
Yeah, it feels like Ballistic is just right there on the edge of really become favored amongst our teams, I think, especially with how aggressive now we are getting in game number 5, in game number 6. Teams are looking for those early game fights, having that Tempest up so early on, having, you know, basically free ammo, the unlimited ammo to work with means that you can try to get aggressive. You don't have to spend an extra 5-10 seconds trying to make sure you have enough stacks of ammo if you take that first fight. So I like how the Ballistic does enable a lot of this early rotation style from our teams.
Ooh, okay. Well, kicking things off with LG after their 20-point win in match number 4, you can kind of see that they're looking for that information of where they have to rotate to. Now, mind you, they had 4th overall pick on the day. They focused on getting their Storm Point POI first. The mill, you usually have a ring console, which is going to give you a lot of the same information. And as you can see, very similar to where we saw an EMEA zone go, right? I kind of thought that match number 4 was going to be similar to what we'd witnessed. No, it actually pulled into Launchpad, but this time I'm looking at HUSS over in Echo HQ, who really haven't been having the strongest show day with only 6 points on the board. This is your best opportunity to make something of this match.
Yeah, this is 2 games now where they will have absolute priority on the zone, but unfortunately they have to worry about teams like Stallions, teams like Virtus.pro around them, which is one thing about the draft that we really haven't been able to focus on as much just because there's so much to talk about. But HUSS have been kind of contained in their rotations. They haven't been able to, I think, move the way that they want to. And so we're seeing a lot more discomfort coming out from them. We're seeing that they're playing a lot more conservative in their spots, not going as aggressive in a lot of the team fights. And Stallions is a team that will actually play a lot more aggressively. VP are a team that will play a lot more aggressively. They will look for those openings, and HUSS just haven't been able to replicate that.
Exactly, and as soon as you see before we cut away, Virtus.pro was already full sending Echo HQ Stallions to join them, and 9 Lives Esports trying for a rotation as well. So knowing that everyone has already looted their Homestead POI and trying to make space in yours, it denies you the ability to make sure that you're fully kitted out, and you have to take those fights against others and steal their loot to kind of keep improving on. For Oblivion though, let's go ahead, let's get that redeployed down. We're sitting triple blue, you're fresh off a survey beacon, and now you just have to get around the pylon. Now, do we go towards the barometer side? It looks like that's exactly what they're doing, looking for that southernmost choke.
Oh, VP versus LG. This is a big fight for VP. We're trying to maintain that lead, and we're wondering if LG have an opportunity to get another third win. Well, that one's instantly gone. VP. We were talking about that early aggression that they can pull out. They can both, of course, play the different aspects of Apex Legends, the patient play and the aggressive play, and we're seeing it here. That's a huge win for them now, really dealing with a team that probably was going to keep them contained on that southeast side of Echo HQ, and now they have a lot more space to work with.
Yeah, this is great. Like I told you at the top of the show, I was talking to my friend Wyatt. He's over there at the Apex pod, and I was like, what are the takes for NA? Like, who's taking it? And the 2 teams he named was Complexity and VP, and he literally quoted, also, I love watching VP because they're so interesting to figure out. They're either the best team in the lobby or not. And today they are kind of on that best team in the lobby set of vibes, and it makes for such an interesting gameplay.
Yeah, they really do thrive when they get a lot of this priority, when they have a lot more space to work with in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game to really lock down the spot for ring number 3, ring number 4. We do have a kink in the works though, as Lou ends up going down to a purple Slushee member here. And so we're seeing a lot of fighting now taking place there on the south side of the map. For Leave No Witness though, they're playing this one a lot more slow. They don't have the same kind of priority like we saw them when we had match number 4 pulling over towards launch pads. So I like that, you know, this time around they are going to slow things down.
You still have Lou on altar. We can already see the reset came through, and they're playing this staircase, which I always put a big question mark on the staircase because sometimes it's okay, but you do have Purple Slushee that is so far out in Narnia, kind of rotating behind them, that if you extend too far out into the open, you're going to get that pressure. Now, you do have a team that is playing high ground from Echo HQ, and I believe it actually was Gent, I think, that was able to put pressure onto Purple Slushee. They're not going to be able to cross without being punished, so keep an eye on the team in Echo HQ and VDR. They're the ones keeping Purple Slushee in check.
Yeah, I think one thing to note for VP taking that early fight that they did is that their economy looks incredibly strong. That stairwell is difficult if you don't have the extra heals to deal with a lot of the poke. Oh no! Purple Slushee tried to push out. You were talking about staying contained here, but they kind of overextended. VP understood the assignment. Hey, we just need to stay in our spot, just apply a little pressure here, and Purple Slushee ends up walking out into the middle of nowhere where so many teams had sidelines on them.
Told you Deeds was going to get involved on that. They were immediately getting punished. Now, at least with Alter and having the triple blue, you've already got the support legend perk. So kind of running off what Loba's perks essentially would be, you can still loot death boxes all around you without having to go get on the box itself. For Flat, I respect trying to play from this angle. Now, we've also seen times where zones pull back into pylons. So if they're already focusing on that and just maintaining this space while grabbing some KP from Ape Gang, it's okay. Also, Gibby. I see a Gibby.
Yeah, that's a great natural location for Flat Earth to play off of, because you know a lot of teams will late rotate in from that western side with the Trident pick, being able to utilize the vehicle to quick rotate to the south side. And so just playing that position, understanding that, hey, you still leave yourself the chance to go over to Pylon if it does make that pull, and keep that available for themselves while also maintaining a position that you can be proactive in and you get mid-game kills. Speaking of kills though, Monsoon with the knock onto one. It's going to be Funk getting finished off, as now Liquid Alienware are looking for the rest of the members in front of them. Spots one out, Kura through the window. Knuckle Cluster not really going to get that far, getting caught up on the window, and so he's going to have to give chase.
They have plenty of space out here, plenty of time, but you can see Mon diving, dodging, trying to get away from those bullets. But look at Kurev. He says, okay, it's totally fine. I'll take to the ultimate high ground and see if I can get ahead of you. Now we can just use that, slide all the way down, keep the pressure onto Monsoon, who's just like, please leave me alone.
Yeah, there's something about Liquid Alienware and Complexity where they just always end up kind of fighting each other. Very similar rotation styles at points, but for Team Liquid Alienware, again, this is another north to south rotate for them. They do like to take their times coming down from that side of the map, and they will take these isolated fights when they are able to spot them out. For Team Falcons though, it seems like they've been playing a lot more off of momentum here. They are looking for this fight. Bursey's already been cracked, and now they're chasing after them.
Ooh, I just saw 13 picks on Fuse, 13 picks on Wraith, so kind of a standstill on that one, but it's gonna be the Falcons opening things up with the mother load from Fuse coming through, and now Hal takes that high ground. Looks like Monday was finally found by Team Liquid Alienware, so good to know, but we've got nades, arc stars being full sent towards the opposing team. Falcons are here to claim this building, but they're being more conservative about it because we know that we need to get into that next zone, chase them. You got 1 KP from it, and you can see they're still trying to find the rest of Ape Gang.
Oh, Flat has to be careful. QZer could be caught out here if Hal and Walty can keep him contained. You see QZer instantly backing off of this one, but Falcons want to continue to give chase and create a little bit more space for themselves. Flat not giving up this high ground quite yet, are able to back off. Nano forced to keep his teammate up now, but Falcons aren't giving up the chase for this.
I know Flat was running for them. Ape Gang's still out in the circle behind them. So there's a good chance that when they come out of zone, they're gonna look straight to Falcons. They need to deal with this fight, and they need to deal with it quickly. But if you're gonna have that Rolling Thunder come on in, it's not like we weren't able to dodge it. We don't take a ton of damage from it. We're being more conservative. It's a lot of the things that you've been talking about, especially after that standout performance on their one map of Broken Moon. And they've just been kind of going consistently across from that, bringing them up to 46 points. They're within striking distance of VP on the leaderboard with 2 matches to go. We just need to get through this mid game, and seeing the way it bounces back, I think where they're currently at is cool because they know where they need to go. They have that next zone information.
Yeah, the game plan here is pretty straightforward for Falcons. They know that this one is going over towards that Echo HQ side, so their big threat is going to be flat ahead of them. But like you had mentioned, I don't know if they were keeping tabs on Ape Gang and what was going on back there. It does seem like a few players were concerned about that at the very least. Waltzy, yep, spots him out, and that's going to be our second member of Ape Gang gone. I don't even know where the third is at this point.
You gotta play slow. Honestly, I just perused. I think they went the distance. They were like, nah, you can go in over there. I'm going elsewhere. Regardless, they're just helping Falcons get one step closer to the top spot on the leaderboard. You got the Void Nexus down, a minute on the clock, and you're just looking, where can we clean up? Do we want to rotate in all the way north? I don't think there's enough time to make that wrap around pylon and drop around where Liquid Alienware is so spread out, looking towards board, coming from the launch pad side of things. I think you take this fight against Flat that has been delayed for what feels like an eternity now, and do it with enough time so anyone that's rotating out of pylon doesn't third party you.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with the uncertainty of what's going on over at Pylon. You have no eyes on what's going on over here. You know that Flat Earth are playing off of this choke, and there's no one really that's going to challenge Flat to the back. There's no third-party big threat that'll come from this angle, but Zero gets caught up against that wall, and he's taken down extremely low, but Waltzy now with his forward position will slow him down at the very least. But yeah, you take the threat that you know instead of the big question mark of what could happen in Pylon instead. But unfortunately, if Flat are going to be this obstinate, it might actually force Falcons to go into Pylon.
They're kind of stuck, right? If Flat's the team, if I'm not mistaken, that is actually running Gibby. So they're constantly throwing the bubble down, kind of standing their ground, getting those recharges back up on the ultimate to just keep that pressure onto Falcons. It's allowed the nice guys to start their rotation up this hill. So now, of course, Falcons have to look for this because you can sandwich in multiple teams over here, such as Leave No Witness and Nice Guys.
Yeah, so it seems like Falcons are forced to just go ahead and take that pylon route, but we're seeing how many teams are piling up here. Nice Guys Leave No Witnesses, Corinthians as well. The Nice Guys survive throughout all of that saying with 1 HP, but he has to pop that med kit. Will Falcons be able to find that opening here? The damage is being laid out by them, and now Waltzy charging forward, knowing he hit for flesh.
Well, here we go. Void Breacher trying to take that high ground. P2020s. We saw what he could do with them throughout our earlier matches, and they're just honestly shredding straight through Nice Guys. Saying down, Cody down, RKN. We just need to deal the finishing blows to you. But the fact that you are able to make it out with your life thus far, granted, you're not going to go too much further because Leave No Witness is just ahead of you alongside Corinthians. And now that that circle is closed, we're kind of sandwiched on the other side of the mountain, where we just kind of have to figure out, can we get to the other side to play the end game? You've got a tip of the iceberg up north that we might be able to rotate around.
Yeah, the phase breach might help out Falcons in mitigating the damage on this rotate, but they need to clear out this fight like now. They need time to be able to reset once they make it across, and now Leave No Witnesses are just falling prey to Falcons. That's only Zero falling here, and this is what I'm talking about, the decisiveness, being able to push that fight and leaving yourself so much time to reset now to really coordinate this rotation on the other side.
They are the kings of the north at this point, because not only that, they were able to grab the majority of the kills over here, while all of this is happening towards Echo HQ. Oblivion putting themselves on 20, ACP falling, and you've got the ballistic ultimate, you've got the rampage, and we are just letting that revved upness wreak havoc on the rest of the lobby. Vayne goes down, Cersei likely to be found out ahead of them, but it seems like that duo is going to try to cut off any angles, but Blinkster finds even more.
Dude, I love watching these altar plays right now. The phase breach is so much fun with how they change the battlefield so quickly here for Oblivion. This is going to be one of the biggest fights for them. a win here could mean a victory for them. I mean, they'll have that natural height. They'll have, I believe, the tree to play off of as teams naturally just kind of funnel their way into the buildings on the Echo HQ side. So now for Oblivion, it's all about control. For Liquid Alienware, though, they've got VDR ahead of them.
Falcons eliminated. They're not going to make it in on that rotation. We saw a double evac, and Liquid Alienware now just have to clear out what's ahead of them, which is VDR. Deeds goes down. Reps last standing over there alongside, but you've got Vaxlon from the high ground. Forgot about him for a second, and he's able to stave off the pressure here from Kirev and Niazul. And honestly, I thought they were going to be able to make that happen, but a third party from Stallions should clean up this entire side.
Liquid Alienware knocked out. Stallions now the only team inside zone. We do have the lone member of Fusions there just on the southern side. And now you can see that might have been spotted out by Stallions. Moving on over. It's just going to buy himself a little time. I think he might want to try and get involved to get some KP up here. Zach Mazer charges forward. That's CIMG now knocked out. And now VP continuing their run through the lobby. They're currently in first place, growing this lead here in 63 points.
Well, as we kind of see that regain and claiming that, we will get a look at our Falcons on the ground, in the boxes. It's tough, right? We knew that was going to be one of the biggest issues when they cleaned out that northern side, was timing that rotation to perfection. And it looked like one of them might have been able to make it, but there's just only so much you can do when there were other people. You just take a shot or two. Next thing you know, you're done. So for the last remaining teams here, all 6 of them, Alb with a Kraber.
Yeah, he was able to find that angle there. You can see the amp cover getting set up. Oblivion will be able to reset this one. But Blinkster, he dropped down so extremely low. Now they have to worry about the push out from VP, from 9 Lives there. As now they're going to basically push in the way that Stallions really wanted to control this out, all out from. So now Oblivion stuck here on the low ground will have Blinkster's altar to utilize as they get to the high ground and almost got the jump on VP.
Oh, they're going for it. You time that well with 30 seconds left on the ballistic ultimate, and Zach Mazer just gets absolutely bullied. Next goes Lou, who's able to cut off that line of sight from Blinkster, but I think they did what they wanted to do. They get that high ground. However, we still have to push on towards the next area, straight into the arms of Alb on Array. 3 bullets, and he's been connecting a lot of these. We saw what pressure he was putting, threading the needle through the windows over into Echo HQ, and we're connecting even more. 9 Lives down. Virtus.pro, the final 2. Stallions take on Oblivion.
Yeah, now Alb charging forward with that port to get themselves onto the high ground, changing up the angles here, but already the knock comes in, and that's going to be Stallions controlling that eastern side of the map for the victory. A well-deserved win for them here in match number 5.
I mean, you remember what would chat think, or what does chat think, that segment that we had? They were talking about Stallions match 1 performance after getting that double-digit 10 kills in match number 1. So to see it come to fruition here in match number 5 alongside with a win to kind of break up the reign that we've seen from LG and VP today. Let's go ahead and pull up the match results and see how many kills they were able to get along that journey.
Yeah, for Stallions, respectable 9 kill points for them, but it was VP who started things off really strong in the early game, taking that first fight up against LG, opening up a lot of Echo HQ for them to be able to play and have that extra economy to maintain that position there. Ultimately, though, we saw that ring pulling away from them. Stallions were in position for that. They were able to fight over it after an opportunistic push where I believe Liquid Alienware tried to push onto VDR, and so Stallions were able to spot that one out, take the god spot in the ring, and of course convert that into a win.
Very well done. And as I kind of look through, sure, Falcons may have fallen in 10th place, but 8 kills to go alongside it. You kind of mentioned them, Team Liquid Alienware, 9 kills. That's some point sponging if I've ever seen it for the Stallions, Oblivion, and VP, which is great, right? Especially VP's just having a monumental day. If they're 3rd place here going out with 10 KP, that's brilliant considering it's 17 points. Their wins were both 22 and a 20-point game. So we see Alter being taken out of contention here and our series results as we start to kind of line up our storylines for match number 6. 13-point gap between VP and Falcons, Jamerson.
Yeah, despite the amazing performance that VP have been able to put on, despite getting back-to-back victories, it's still not enough to just run away with it like we saw in EMEA earlier on today in the form of Na'Vi. But it's great to see that the Falcons still have their talents. They are ready to strike back, and so it's not safe for VP whatsoever here. They still have to play an immaculate game number 6. They cannot go down early. Otherwise, of course, we still have 2 teams that can overtake them.
That's very true, but honestly, I love that their kills and their placement points are relatively balanced. But guys, we've got to get ready for match number 6. So let us kick to a quick break, and then we'll be back to finalize this series.
160度囲むようなそんなシーンに見えましたが、そこから出るところ、リドルは2狙いの B ですかね。はい、止めていきました。これでニュービー ALGS が全滅。さあ GHS との勝負になります。
ただこれ誰も落ちてないので全然ありますよ。
ありますね。ただアマ状況入れか背中を取った。このラックが刺さっている。そしてブームがチャンピオンを取るのか。さあ綺麗な2対2になりました。ただこのグレネード起点になる。隅の泡全て削れてしまった。さあこれはベテランが分からせるのか。またモモワムイはただ滑り込まれて最後は GHS。
さあ最後に
新旧入り混じるアネモネ、そしてモモ。ただこれで 1v2 になったか。
いや起こせてはないんですが
起こせるかどうか。
体力が削れちゃってるので、
はい、
いやアネモネかなり苦しい。
さあ O2 かリグナイトか。アネモネモモの打ち合い。モモのリードあるか。いやー最後そこで来るのがフナティック。そしてそれを眺めるのはジロゾン。さあフナティックが抑えて最後の人どこだとさあようやくお離れから動いたジロゾン。
動きましたね。
さあここにいた銃声聞いた。
もうこれは3人残ってるということで
ポイントは与えない。さあ来るなら来てみろ。ソレイユよく頑張りました。デュオで2位に入りました。しかしこれでルパの3部隊。さあALGSこのポータルどこにつながっている。敵の目の前。さあ下に追いついてギバーユーフォリア全滅。さあやはりテックウィンが有利になりそう。登ってくる敵。
先にエリアも広げに行ってますよ。
はい。さあフナティックがその O2 側に行く。ここを取らなければチャンピオンはないというそんな判断か。ヘロバリケードとともに結構 O2 にいいダメージ入れてますねこれ。
はい。ただ O2 一度ダメージもらって下がってますね。でそこに玉で来たオーブと当たってる形なんですね。
さあ結局フナティックは押し合った格好になった。O2 を動かしたのは日本のフナティック
でオーブも弾いてますね。
さあ2チーム弾いてオーブ全滅。そして有利なところから
Welcome back, everyone, to the Apex Legends Global Series. I don't know about you guys. Did anyone throw your sleep schedule last night to watch APAC North? Because it's kind of wild to me, Jamerson, that Fnatic and GHS are both in Group B, and we're going to continuously get to see them battle it out each and every match day because they've been looking super impressive, and especially with Fnatic's new roster. But enough about that. We got the final circle to break down.
Yeah, I'll be honest, my baby was asleep early, so I took the opportunity to make sure I got my rest. As much as I wanted to watch the games, I could not. And, you know, I'm well rewarded for it because of the caliber of games that we've seen so far today across EMEA and now here in America. Stallions having a standout performance in this last one, and it all came down to Albert Laley connecting with some amazing and impactful Kraber shots that controlled the entire battlefield.
Oh, and as we see, our map rotation coming on in Catalyst, Newcastle, Ash, Crypto, Alter, all banned. But the Stallions with that match 5 victory, it's looking pretty nice. Like if you look at the series as a whole, the wins that we're getting are pretty much the same caliber. And it was like that LG win in match number 1. Sure, I'll take the 4 kills considering they were inside that building and underpass for the large majority of that Broken Moon victory, right? So, but you can see that they have the ability to grab even more kills, which they proved in match number 4. But match number 6, it's all about VP at the top of the leaderboard by 13 points. Can they hold on to it?
Yeah, and with the space that they're getting currently afforded there on the southeast side of the map, I feel like they might be able to just secure this win. They're getting a lot more free space than I think a lot more teams are comfortable with them getting here. And so I think if they get another pull like this, they should be able to pull this one out of the bag. But again, Falcons aren't out of question of taking first place either with 55 points. We've seen them absolutely frag out. They just need to now convert it into a victory instead of just, what, a top 3. I think top 3 was their highest finish so far today. So we'll see if they can actually do that for themselves. Stallions, with that win, put themselves into contention. It's a little bit harder because they need VP to go down early, and then they also need a high fragging game.
Ooh, that's a lot to witness on, especially when you think about where VP is starting. Mind you, we talked about who kind of decided to focus on getting their Broken Moon POI versus Stormpoint. Well, VP, they picked Foundry second, which left them with 37th pick on Stormpoint, getting devastated Coast. Now, we're so far down on the south side, but it's paid off very well considering the zones in match 4 and 5 leaning towards the south short. You've got that ring console, you've got some information available to you to kind of go through that. The issue is when you think about your legend selection, I don't know if I'm being trolled as we're looking at Stallions here who have decided to run Rampart, Ballistic, Wraith now that Alter is banned, but I see a Mirage in play. Can you just peep that lower right hand corner down there?
That's going to be the nice guys with the Revenant as well. So way to bury the lead there. Oh, wait, no, VP actually with the Mirage pick as well. Oh, wow. I love this. I love this Legend band so much because look at how diverse this entire lobby is. I think I see 2, 3 mirror matchups. But beyond that, we are seeing so many different controller legends coming out. Flat Earth, of course, one of the few teams that have picked up the Gibraltar. Actually, the only team I think this weekend that has picked up the Gibraltar for themselves. Hasn't been able to convert with that yet, but I mean, that was only one game. So this is their second try at it.
Yeah, we do have the Rogue Watson coming in from Leave No Witness, but I like the Mirage Alter because you get all the support legend perks from that first initial level up for VP there once they get to blue, and then you have Running Man coming through with Mirage. But we did see Revenant come through in some other regions, so for it to make a play here in Americas, why not in game 6? Why not get crazy, especially if we're going to be pulling towards the north? As you can see, the majority of our teams trying to get themselves into North Pad, where Nice Guys have been flat. Ape Gang still in there. Corinthians trying to get in from the wall. But if you can claim your spot early, these are some of the most difficult zones to rotate into late game, especially because we have that contention heated spot that always lies in checkpoint.
Yeah, that checkpoint pileup could be massive, but we're seeing some very early fighting here as Nice Guys now charging forward, saying has gone down. That might leave a lot more room behind them in a lot of those buildings for teams to backfill up against them. Nice Guys, though, will go ahead and recover here. He even popped that Mirage ult just for safety. A bit of a distraction. You can see now Cody is out in force, charging forward to get that Evo charge for himself and his teammates. And it looks like just posturing and taking the fight alone will get that space for themselves. They don't have to get a full team fight win. They just need the positioning advantage here, as it looks like LG might have been posturing to try and push onto this one along with Ape Gang.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. Like, I was wondering what RKN was going to play post crypto being changed and kind of losing out on Alter. This is fun because I know we had some changes on Mirage where the number of clones goes up from 5 to 6. Plus, you have kind of the skirmisher adjustment where you get the health back on a knock. Like, what's going to happen? I mean, we're starting to see the test. We were talking about what would chat think, and a lot of people were asking what would be the new legends that are going to come from this legend ban system that we're going to start seeing in these crazy series. And I mean, just think when we get to LAN, Jamerson, and we're going past 6 games, we're going to have so many more legends taking out of contention that you're just like, who knows what people are going to be adapting to.
Yeah, as a caveat, we do have the rule, though, that if an entire class of legend has been banned out, the first legend from that class that was banned will be reintroduced into the pool, because what happens if we somehow, you know, we can't leave a space where we're just completely out of legends at this point. Monsoon, though, with a nice little knock there on to Team Liquid Alienware, who are pretty split up. Now have to regroup. Jaguar is still healing up, but it looks like they were not able to cut the distance. And oh no, HUSS versus VP, and VP have traded as Skittle Cakes drops down on them. VP go down first.
This was the big question. 13 points ahead of second place. Who would be able to cut VP down? And it's going to be HUSS, who really starting to awaken here in game number 6, need all the KP they can get, because they came into what I think the 5th game with maybe 6 to 8 points. So trying to salvage after that week 1 match day 1 victory. Want to keep that consistent, but Complexity, they've been working this way on the outskirts of Wall, but it's Stallions fresh off match 5 victory, looking to get that top slot.
And it looks like things are already going well for them. The knock onto one, Albralele. Go ahead and finish that one off. Nice, guys. Going down there on the northern side. We'll go ahead and open up a lot of space around North Pad as they find another knock here for Stallions now. Another +3 KP. This is their window of opportunity. This is what they wanted to do to try and catch up against VP, but Falcons showing up for the third party here, and it looks like they're just a little bit late in the invite for this party, and so Falcons will not be able to slow down Stallions.
The issue is this is your second and third place team. So Falcons need to take down Stallions, especially if they're both going to be vying for that top spot. Complexity, who were just healthy a moment ago, get taken down by Team Liquid Alienware on the outskirts of Wall. No rotation for them from this side of the circle. So we're going to keep on moving. So far, Falcons and Stallions have decided to part ways mutually. HUSS is still down in Pylon and will be still working their way up north VDR from the mid. But I like what Falcons are doing, still carrying on, because they're sick of getting caught out of that circle and their job's not done, because they still have to either go, hey, do we hang towards the west and go through down beast, or do we stuff ourselves through that checkpoint choke?
Yeah, Survey Beacon is going to prove extremely valuable for them. They will have access to a few on this rotate if they decide to go from the western side, and it looks like that is what they're going to continue to do. Make their way on over to Mill, make their way over to down to Beast. We'll also have that ring console to play off of. By the way, match 6, we're already down to, what is it, 14 teams at the end of ring 1 closing.
We see the pace always kind of get amplified at the end of a series, and of course that's going to happen here, especially how many people had rotated so quickly. Now Liquid Alienware, after taking Complexity down, you've got the boon of all the resources at the wall and your choice of whichever way you want to go for that. We were curious which way Falcons was going to go. They're taking the down B side of things. For LG, 2 wins on the day, 42 points. You never know, they could throw down a massive game, because I'm starting to think about it. They're what, 15? No, they're actually they would need a huge game to get to 68 plus points and take down VP.
Yeah, and you know, I don't want to write them out, but it's just not something that we're used to seeing out of LG. We don't typically see plus 12 KP win out from them. We see a lot of these wins where it is going to be about closer to more standard, right? Between 4 to 7 for them, more conservative wins. And so while they have the capacity to get a win, just not the potential that we typically see for a big high-flying win.
A team within striking distance, though, that could make something happen. 11 points back right here, Falcons. However, haven't really been able to get any fighting moving done that they would like to. They started kind of putting some inklings towards Stallions and focused on playing zone towards that side and cleaning things up on rotation. So keeping an eye on their backs while just extending out and looking towards North Pad is brilliant for them. For Team Liquid Alienware, instead of going across the way straight west into North Pad area, we're diving down, playing for extra information over in Cascades.
Yeah, honestly, with how long that fight that took with complexity, they really don't have too many other options. They know that they've lost out on priority on all of these other positions that are already inside of North Pad or over at Trident. So there's no point for them to try and go forward. They know that a lot of the teams that were probably behind them or would have been later on the rotate are already ahead of them. So at this point, they have to play a lot more opportunistic, make sure they get this info. That's exactly what they're going to do.
Oh, okay. Switching things up. We're not going to go for the support legend perks. We go for the recon legend perks, and that's just kind of adhering to our legend band system and what's going to make the most sense for them on that information-wise. So now we're making our calls based off that survey beacon and the approach. They should be okay. You've got VDR just through this choke. You can go down through spiders where Stallions will be, but one way or another, Blinkster and a Craver.
Yeah, we got to see what Blinkster was able to do with it last week. We'll see if he can recreate some of that. It'd be very unfortunate if it was Falcons on the receiving end again, but I think with where they're currently positioned, it's not as much of an issue. Right now, Oblivion are inside of checkpoint. Falcons, excuse me, are over there at downed beast, but I don't think they will try to move their way through checkpoint. I mean, the path of least resistance for them is just going to be bored ahead of them, just on the inside of that next zone. So I don't see Blinkster playing spoiler to Falcons this time around.
At least yet. I'm worried for Falcons, though, because Board does have Rampart, so they're going to be situated with amped covers and Sheilas, and for Stallions that have this big standoff against HUSS. Now, mind you, HUSS is the team that took down VP over at the Falcons, and VP have been playing top-tier gameplay. Do they take out another top-3 team along this journey? Because if I'm Stallions, I'm playing the long haul here in match number 6, because a match day win for them would go so far, and they immediately back off from that engagement.
But they're about to run into another team. It's going to be Team Liquid Alienware on the other side of the door, and they get a first peek. First initial damage out as well. Enemy, though, quickly answers back by throwing down that amped cover. That buys them just enough time, but it looks like it's going to be Team Liquid Alienware charging forward, and Stallions are just taken out with almost no fight back.
Oh my god. I feel like that's one of those moments where you really want to see that from Team Liquid Alienware's side, especially if you're going to be playing Alter and you throw the Q down and you just immediately get the scan, all of the information on where Stallions are. But now we are really shaking things up here in match number 6. Not only is your first place team down, your third place team is out, your fifth place team is out. All eyes on Falcons at this point.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for Team Liquid Alienware to claw their way into possibly 4th place overall. Work cut is still cut out for them at this point because they've got Oblivion in their way, VDR set up on the other side of this choke point, and so there's going to be a lot of resistance no matter what they choose to do here.
Definitely. Well, through this checkpoint, HUSS from the south side. We saw Stallions run away from them, and they've committed to get into this checkpoint area alongside Oblivion and Team Liquid Alienware. Are we about to see an Oblivion sandwich?
Oblivion were playing so far out. You saw how spread out they were in 3 different buildings, but it felt like, you know, the Spidey senses got the better of them and they were able to pull back and retreat. But yeah, I think we will be seeing that sandwich. It won't take place now because all 3 teams inside checkpoint are safely in, but eventually it will happen. For VDR, though, they've got to make their move. They got CIMJ ahead of them currently, keeping tabs on them for now. Vaxlon gets taken down by the 30-30, but he is safely behind the wall. CIMJ not quite ready to move out here as they are getting shot from the side by Ape Gang.
Bro, Vax peaked for maybe 3 seconds. He was doing damage and then just gets absolutely ruined. At least we have reps here able to grab a knock in retribution onto CIMJ, which is going to give them the ability to push on into this bunker they've created for themselves, taking the Ash portal, letting the hipfire fly, but Reps needed to do so alongside Deeds and does, but it's just not enough. Now Vax with the P2020s might be meeting his make here as well. Falls again in 13th place, leaving them out on the day, I believe 17th.
Yeah. Don't know what exactly the plan was there. It's not like they had an overwhelming amount of damage done onto a single player there on CIMJ. They had plenty of time to reset if there was. It seems like there might have just been a disconnect on that push. Now here's HUSS trying to find that Oblivion sandwich. Liquid Alienware poised to come in for the third party. HUSS have to be careful and make sure they don't take a knock on this engagement here.
Okay. Duke takes a ton of damage, but is able to reunite alongside the squad. I see a Sheila inside with Oblivion. And we know how horrifying that is. We saw what G Dolphin did over in EMEA and just completely destroyed Cybercats in one fell swoop. So you hear the Sheila come out, you start thinking about different things and where we decide to push. But for LG, who have found themselves on a solid side here, not necessarily in, but you can play from the slower side while you focus on where you need to go. The issue here is going to be Falcons on the down beast portion of the tail, where the circle pulled to them and board. And they can just stare at everyone collapsing on each other on this side.
Yeah, for LG, if they want a shot at taking away third place from Stallions, they need a top 2 finish. For Team Liquid Alienware, though, they're ready to take this fight up against the IMJ, and that's them knocked out. HUSS moving out at the same time. Team Liquid Alienware, Karev's going to try and hold it down. Niesel, though, is going to be the last one alive. Forced into his queue. His teammates fallen to the wayside here as HUSS now charge forward with the rest of Corinthians to their side now, and it's Ape Gang looking to gang up on them from behind as Falcons make their move on in, forcing LG back, but also clearing out their back.
Goodbye half the lobby. HUSS falls as one of the last remaining teams, about to bring us into the top 5. I love that we've got Hal on Ballistic. You bring in Bangalore alongside the Altar. The aggressive nature. Sure, you don't have a lot of cover here. You just have to work under the Bangalore smokes and what you've got in terms of terrain, but all of those KP that we just picked up from Oblivion, and we take this towards endgame, there's a good chance that we're just going to be able to do enough. But job's not done. 7 more points to go, and LG still in the mix.
Yeah, Falcons now, all they really need is a second place finish with 1 team wipe, and I think they will go ahead and walk away with the victors. But you can see now Falcons really posturing to try and find these extra kills for themselves to make it that much easier. They've got the win condition for the day, but I think more than anything else, they want the win here in this match. Zero now set up with this Craver laying in wait. Falcons with so much space to work with here, but they still have to worry about this zone closing in, and it looks like they won't get over greedy for this one. They'll allow Flat Earth to fight. LG are holding down position. Naughty holding down M1, but it's not enough. Nano gets into his face now. It's all up to Shubi, up against Gibraltar and the arm shield. It does not matter. The P2020 will rip through that. LG get knocked out though. Flat Earth will not have an opportunity to go for the reset now as Leave No Witness clean things up. We're basically down to 3 final teams here. It's going to be Falcons, Board, and Leave No Witness, but we'll see if Flat somehow, that lone Rats, can play distraction.
We take our eyes off the Falcons for 1 second, and next thing you know, they're in shambles. But the resets are here, and also the frag grenades. Maybe we can't ban those with legend bans. I just want you guys to know those are always going to be here. There's another Kraber in play. I believe it's in the hands of MJ, and they're looking for angles on the Falcons. So Board trying to keep that pressure on. Flat, that lone solo over there, could also wreak havoc on it. And with Panic being the last one standing for Leave No Witness, the entirety of North Pad and this area by Down Beast has just been hold on.
Qzier almost has third place for his squad. Leave No Witnesses are out. Flat Earth now having to deal with Board, and it's going to be Falcons charging forward. 3v3 Falcons. Can they get the final win on the day?
I mean, if you're going to drop 150 damage like that, you just got to hunt him down. MJ down and out, and Zero at the behest of a ballistic ult finally get their wins. Falcons in game number 6.
What a way to do it, because that's going to put them on top of the day. Team Falcons. We've talked about them in the past, about how they can have a slower start, and they definitely did, starting off on Broken Moon. But after match number 3, it looks like a fire was lit underneath them. They were able to really figure out a lot of the rotation kind of logic for a lot of the teams around them, and since then have adjusted extremely well.
I think all of those adjustments, like they went great, because you were talking about scrims watch at the start of this, and I'd love to get Glitter back, and you were kind of saying Falcons performed hot during the week. Could they do it in a match day? And Glitter, I mean, it looks like they did.
We were talking about whether or not they were going to be able to pick up their play after a slower start on Broken Moon, but you know, we all said, one, it's Falcons. Two, we're moving into Storm Point, a very comfortable map, and they just turned into the absolute slaying machines that we know they are, and went from not in the discussion to the top of the leaderboard. And that is just Falcons doing Falcon things. I mean, come on, we'll take a look at the match results so we could see the exact numbers here. But Jamerson, they showed up when it mattered.
Yeah, and you could see that they were feeling a lot more comfortable as the day went on. There were, it seemed like they were moving together as a well-oiled unit, right? That they didn't have to rely on comms as much, that it felt like they were playing off of instinct at some points for themselves. I'm glad that they were able to slow things down there, because we saw a few teams like Flat Earth, I think, in match number 4, getting a little bit over-aggressive after winning teamfight after teamfight and overextending themselves. Falcons have that experience where they know they need to kind of pull themselves back and make sure that they keep their win condition ahead of them, and that's what they did here in the final map.
Dang, and you can see you guys are talking about it in those final moments of match number 6. That was enough for them to have that win condition to put themselves at the top of the leaderboard, and that's exactly what happened. 75 total points go the way of Falcons, followed by VP, though, who also had a really stellar performance today, Tiff.
Yeah, it was just overall impressive, not only for just VP, who walk away with a 2nd overall, but Stallions, 50 points on the day, even LG with the 48 points. It was incredibly close throughout that top 5, and I already saw RKM with Nice Guys kind of tweet out, hey, not a bad day for some people who just like to have fun. No, definitely not a bad day.
I mean, and you can see there at the end of it all, Falcons didn't have the highest amount of placement points, but it was just because they became this unstoppable killing force, 49 total kills, to put themselves at the top of the leaderboard, really making up for a little bit of a deficit when it came to that placement side of things. So they did a good job balancing their strengths and weaknesses and really picking it up when they needed to. So congratulations to them for putting on a really strong second half of the day to put themselves at the top. So let's start talking about our individuals as well. And I'm not surprised that it's Hal, because in the game where they went out with 14 kills in top 10, Hal had 8 of them at one point. So we've got Hal at the top here, Jamerson, with 28 kills for our Sony in-zone kill leaderboard.
Yeah, not surprised at all. And of course, finding Cody there in 2nd place with 14, with the way that they were playing on Broken Moon, the amount of lurk plays that they were able to get on teams was absolutely stellar. And Sang even finding a 2nd showing there for his squad there in 9th, or well, tied for 7th with Nano, QZer, and Niezo. But VP, with the performance that they were able to put up, finding 2 teams and 2 players on top of the kill leaderboard there at the end of the day. But Falcons, again, I'm so glad that we got to see them in better form throughout the day. Oh my God. Did we get to see that on the broadcast earlier?
I don't know, but that also goes to show us why Hal had 7.5k damage on the day. A massive 3.3k damage differential. The fact that he's dealing that much more damage than he's taking despite being knocked, kind of some of the most that we've seen from a team throughout a series, is wild.
I mean,
and I think that was kind of consistent with his overall performance in terms of damage differential. It's just that they weren't able to convert that damage differential into meaningful results for themselves last week. And now we're seeing how the pendulum swings the other way, and now they are finding the success with that damage.
Yeah, these first couple weeks are always a little bit up and down for some of our squads until we really kind of settle in to the full thick of that split. So I think what we've seen so far is that there's a lot of teams that have really perfected dealing with the new variables that come with this new setup of ALGS. And in the event that they're not handling new variables, they can still fall back on tried and true and really pick up points where they need to. And all of those small things are going to be important when it comes down to LAN, because you don't know what map it's going to fall on for match point. You don't know which legends are going to be available when you might have to close things out. So really kind of testing themselves here in these early weeks is just really massive. We're going to be getting an interview here in just a few moments. Before we do that, though, let's take a look back at these final moments from that last match here, Jamerson, because it was just some really calculated pushes across the board from a lot of these squads that was slowly chipping away at everybody holding the area.
And one thing I think we really don't get to talk about enough is how impactful now that the late game rats are in this game. We saw it come to fruition in America's last week, I believe, and we got to see it once again here. One lone member of Flat Earth surviving is what created enough confusion on the battlefield here for Falcons to be able to reset themselves, right? We saw one person, excuse me, the QZer push into Leave No Witness, and that created just what, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, enough time for Falcons to mantle up and take this commanding position up against Leave No Witness.
Really, really good job on behalf of Falcons there. So congratulations to them for being able to close out the series at the end of the day. Hal being at the top of our Sony in-zone leaderboard as well. They really, really got it together. And no one, I think, was surprised at the end of the day when that happened, Tiff, because as soon as you get a whiff of them starting to get on a roll, they just continue with it. And actually, I'm being told that we might have Hal ready and standing by to chat with us here at the end of the day. So Hal, welcome. Thank you so much for jumping on.
No problem, guys. No problem.
All right, give me your thoughts here. We get through the series, but this is now week 2 of really starting to figure out this meta on a new map, new legend bans coming through. So what are your thoughts so far and how this split is going?
First split, or the first day of Pro League that we had like 13th, obviously not good at all. But obviously there's like a lot of reasons for that, and I don't want to like go into full detail, but so far I feel like everyone's kind of figuring it out. I don't expect any teams really to always be dominating. I feel like there's gonna be like a lot of flip-flopping on the leaderboard. So, you know, I feel like I see Pro League for not just for us, for, you know, probably every single Pro League or everyone that's going to land. It's kind of like a practice session for everyone to see, you know, what's good and what's bad, because, you know, so much stuff like kind of changed for competitive this year with the ban system, with, you know, Broken Moon, with I guess ED still played, but you get the point. Like, there's just so many factors that have changed, so it's kind of hard to fully practice and gauge what is good or bad just from scrims. So I think that's what you're going to expect from a lot of teams from now on.
I think those are really valid points, because you mentioned all the changes that we're getting here for year 5 ALGS, but congratulations on the match day win. I did ask this to Hiarka earlier after the Navi win. You kind of did allude to scrims, but what are some of the things that you guys as a team are going to be focusing on specifically in scrims this week to try and mitigate kind of the ups and downs, the 13th to the 1st, to try and kind of iron it out to maybe we're more consistently placing in the top 3 each and every time?
Minimizing individual mistakes. When we were playing so many different characters, someone's going to mess up at some point. And, you know, like one game we're going to be playing Crypto, one game we're going to be playing Newcastle. So I feel like being very cognizant or like aware of what we're playing and how we have to play it, because every game is different. You know, some games we have to play Newcastle Catalyst, some games we play Fuse Crypto, right? And you would play Fuse Crypto, you have to play aggressive, you have to play for kills. You can't play like as if you're playing Newcastle Catalyst, right? So I feel like that's like sometimes our problem. We try to, you know, mix our play styles with different comps when we should be making our own play style with certain comps that have to be aggressive and not defensive because we have aggressive characters. So I think that's like one of the things. But obviously, I think the biggest thing is just refining our roles. I think, you know, the biggest thing was the biggest change recently compared to first week was me and Waltzy swapping, you know, Newcastle and Catalyst. I played Catalyst this week and instead of Newcastle, and it seemed a lot better. I felt like I was able to play a lot more aggressive and it helped the team a lot. So, and obviously Waltzy was playing almost, I feel like, great on Newcastle. Like, I don't think he made a single mistake with the character today. So, you know, I'm glad that, you know, we played very well today and we needed it.
Nice.
Yeah, and so far in your experience, I mean, we've already seen after 4 matches or 4 sets, right, between EMEA and Americas, Cat, Newcastle, Ash, all high priority in terms of bans overall. Of course, Alter coming in around that 4th spot, along with Crypto and Bang possibly there in the 5th. Who else do you think, in terms of Legends, might be able to break through into getting into that 5th ban spot?
Typically, when you go towards the end of like a 6-game series, it's becoming like a lot more aggressive characters. So usually, obviously for NA and like every other region is very different. But I feel like in terms of NA, like I feel like a lot of people really love Wraith, depending on the map. Like if Crypto didn't get banned, I'm sure a lot of people would have played like Wraith, Crypto, Ballistic or something. But since Crypto gets banned, it changes a lot of things. For everyone, and Fuse, obviously, it's because it creates like compositions that don't really synergize with one another. So you have to pick whether or not you want to have a console or no console character. So for 5th and 6th game, if I had to guess, like usually it's an aggressive character like Ballistic, Wraith, or Bang, like one of those 3. Obviously, it depends on the map. Like if it's Stormpoint, Bangalore for sure, because Bang is really good on Stormpoint. E-District is Bangalore is really bad, so Ballistic might be played more. But yeah, there's a lot of different factors. It just changes, you know, who's in lobby, who's playing, and what map we're playing on for the last 3 games.
Yeah, I think that's what is making this season such a chaotic one. Like you're saying, there are just so many different things that you guys are all constantly trying to focus on, kind of fit together, make it work. But at the end of the day, today was a really good example of how all of your just superior skill and experience shows how quickly you can adapt from week 1 to week 2, and then even within the series, from the first half of the series to the second half of the series, you guys absolutely crushed it right at the moment that you needed to. So congratulations again on winning, you know, day 2, week 2 here for the split, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon. Thanks for jumping on here and chatting.
No problem. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Always nice to be able to chat with our players after that. And honestly, everything he said, Tiff, is what we've been kind of talking about this whole time. We're so early on that we don't really know how all of this is going to go heading into LAN. And now that we're 2 weeks in, we've at least gotten to see all of the groups in all of our regions. So give me a little bit of how you're feeling after we've gotten through the Americas.
I think we're really seeing the importance of teamwork. And I think it's interesting that when we kind of pose those questions to him and he's talking about you've got to be able to flex and adapt, and kind of seeing that sometimes another person's going to be better on a legend that maybe you bring to the table with that, and just kind of getting all of that situated, where I think the team as a whole with a great coach is going to allow you to find that success. And while you might not dominate and get match win after match win each and every day, so long as you can kind of get that consistency within the top 3 and 5 and make sure that you play the long game, LAN's gonna look wild. Look, we all know that. And I'm just gonna be sitting back watching the chaos happen, and I'm just gonna be like, how many games are we going? How many bans are happening? What is it? Are we getting more Revenants coming out, more Mirages? Like, I don't even know at this point.
Yeah, when you guys called out that Revenant, I'm not gonna lie, that threw me. I was not prepared for that emotionally, but I'm here for it because that's the whole point of having this legend ban system. And you got to be there live and cast this one, Jamerson, and now we're at the end of the day. So give me your thoughts after making it through this series.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of casting, though, it feels like for us as casters, we're relearning how to cast this game, because we're used to having also beforehand a lot of the variables kind of cut down, right? We were used to seeing a lot of the same compositions. We knew a lot of the same talking points. We knew why teams were doing this. And now being able to have that last question with Hal about how that last ban can affect every team was really insightful. And I really needed to hear that, because, again, it feels like we're relearning how to cast the game. Every single game feels so dynamic. It's not the same as it was beforehand. I absolutely adore the fact that we have the legend ban system coming in, because it's feeling fresh for everybody.
Great point. Great point. Honestly, you guys absolutely crushed it today on the cast as well. So thank you so much for lending us your expertise and your voices. We will let you go and rest and enjoy the rest of your day, because it's almost time for us to say goodbye. So thank you as always. But for everybody at home, we're not even close to done with our split. Okay, we have match day 3 coming up around the corner, April 20th, EMEA match day 3, 6 p.m. BST, 1 p.m. ET, 10 a.m. PT for your next week of Apex Legends action, and it will only continue on from there. Speaking of continuing on, of course, we keep talking about it. You guys are never going to forget about it. We have the ALGS Open in just a few weeks' time in New Orleans. It's going to be insane. 160 teams will be battling it out across 4 days. Scan the QR code up on your screen right now to get your tickets to the event. It's going to be an event unlike any we've ever seen before, so you have to try and check that out. It's going to be so epic. But if you're unable to make it, or if you just want to keep up to date with everything we've got going on throughout the rest of the year, just make sure you're following us on social media at Play Apex Esports on X and on YouTube, and at Play Apex on Twitch. That way you can keep up to date with everything we've got going across all of our regions, and you will know what to expect that when LAN shows up right around the corner. But for now, it's time for us to say goodbye. One more congratulations to Falcons on finishing out a very strong series. For now, hop in the game, play some Apex Legends, and we'll see you next week. It's time for a little bit of a half